Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with your WWE Wrestlepalooza Ultimate Preview. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here not only to break down everything that happened across Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, we will be tackling the entirety of WWE Wrestlepalooza from an Ultimate Preview tip when Vintage Chris Vanini joins later in the show. We have, as always, an absolute ton to discuss on this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, so let's not waste any time off the top as the Silver King reminds you that this show
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King Adam Silverstein, Vintage Chris Vanini, and Getting Over in its entirety. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us across social media at Getting Overcast. On YouTube, you get full-length audio episodes and full-length video interviews. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. Plus, you can send in questions and comments for the show. And on Twitter, you can vote in our pre- and post-show polls surrounding WWE Premium Live events. We will have a pre-show poll out around an hour before WWE Wrestlepalooza begins, and a post-show poll immediately after it ends as we simultaneously tape an instant analysis podcast, extra performance-enhancing audio for your earholes. Yes, this will be a 3-episode week. Of course, we're talking WWE right now. On Thursday, we will have a full breakdown of NXT Homecoming, which is loading up literally as we tape the show. WWE is announcing name after name. Finn Balor, Bianca Belair, Sami Zayn, etc. All of them showing up at Full Sail University for NXT Homecoming. We will also have an AEW All Out Ultimate Preview, all of that coming for you on Thursday. And then Saturday night, early Sunday morning, your WWE Wrestlepalooza instant analysis. In terms of an instant analysis after AEW All Out, because it's an afternoon show, we're going to try to knock that out for you on Saturday. At this point, I just am not entirely sure how much time I have. I'm about to go on a 2-week trip to New York. Saturday is my final day of preparation before I leave Sunday. So again, I just don't know what we're going to be able to do with All Out, but I promise, as always, I will do my best to bring performance-enhancing audio to your earholes. Now, we have a loaded show for you, as we always do. The main event, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and your WWE Wrestlepalooza Ultimate Preview. All of that is coming up.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And we do have a few items to discuss here at the top of the show. Andrade is no longer with WWE less than 2 years after returning to the company at the 2024 Royal Rumble, where the Silver King was in attendance. There have been a variety of reports about the circumstances of his departure. Nothing I would call concrete. Those include that he at least once supposedly violated the wellness policy, as he did back in 2023 during his first run with the company, by the way. He also reportedly got sent home from TV at least once, supposedly escorted out of the building. There were creative differences, and he ghosted WWE when they called him about work. It's extremely difficult to parse what is true, what is not true in this situation, and Getting Over really cannot confirm anything we just mentioned about his release. What I have been able to confirm is that plans for the SmackDown Tag Team division changed drastically over the last month. Andrade and Rey Fenix were meant to remain a team, and they were in line for a serious push, possibly including them winning the WWE Tag Team Championships as soon as Clash in Paris. WWE loved the way the team worked together on TV, how they performed in the TLC match at SummerSlam. It seems everything fell apart after that, which is why the Street Profits got pushed back to the forefront again and put into that match at Clash in Paris. We had been wondering on this show out loud what happened to Andrade and Phoenix, even speculating they were headed over to Raw to help Penta. The whole deal of Penta randomly teaming with War Raiders and continuing to feud with New Day despite winning that feud already was extremely odd, and one wonders why they didn't link him with Dragon Lee from the start. Anyway, Andrade was a re-signing I fully supported at the time WWE brought him back. The guy is a supreme talent bell to bell. Legitimately one of the best in the world when he wants to be. His main problem on screen was a continued unwillingness to learn enough English to get by. No one needs to be fluent, especially in 2025, but look how well Penta and Phoenix and Asuka and Io Sky can communicate. WWE's refusal to give him a mouthpiece in this run was mind-boggling, especially when he was on the same brand as Zelina Vega, who was doing a bunch of nothing. Now, we say WWE's refusal. It's quite possible that was suggested and pitched, and maybe Andrade or Zelina or both of them pushed back. And if so, that's on them. But it's impossible to say. But if Andrade was positioned properly by WWE, I truly believe he could have been World Heavyweight Champion. That is his talent level. You give him someone who can help him speak and create storylines, and he can be a main eventer in WWE. So because of that, it's extremely unfortunate to see him go. Hopefully that opens up more opportunity for others as a silver lining. In terms of what's next for Andrade, his return to WWE was not a situation where he burnt bridges with AEW like Rusev did or like some other people who left. Tony Khan reportedly offered him a higher value contract, but he wanted to go back to WWE. He wanted to be booked over there. He thought it would be better. And of course, his wife at the time, Charlotte Flair, was with the company. So with that relationship over and AEW leaning even heavier into the we're the best wrestle bullshit, bringing him back would make sense. Another option is for him to sign a dual contract with CMLL and AEW, have him work primarily in Mexico, but still show up throughout the year in key situations. Now, you would have thought that WWE with Andrade would have positioned him as a major player for AAA under WWE, but based on perception alone, it seems like he was not interested in doing that. Now, whether that was not wanting to primarily work in Mexico, specifically not in AAA, he thought signing with WWE, he would be entirely on the main roster. I cannot say. Either way, from a talent perspective, it's a loss from WWE, but from a locker room quality standpoint, it does seem like WWE made a necessary but unfortunate move. Another item here, WWE chose Drake's song Nokia as the official theme for Wrestlepalooza. It's apparently a very popular song. I find the choice hilarious, just given the way we've spoken about Drake here for the last year. It's also ironic that AEW is actually holding a show in Toronto the same day the Drake song is being used for a WWE show in Indianapolis, which has no connection whatsoever. There's not even a thematic connection where that song makes sense for this specific show. So yeah, quite a choice by WWE. Vic Joseph and Booker T were on the call for SmackDown on Friday night. Cool to get some NXT flavor on the show. Those two put together as a team. This was due to Corey Graves working Worlds Collide on Friday and then Raw on Monday. Michael Cole's absence was a surprise. Hopefully it was scheduled time off and not anything else. Speaking of SmackDown, it was so close to being an awesome show. There was one flatly bad segment, two legitimately perfect segments, and a bunch of others that were either a finish or a slight booking change away from being great. For that reason, while it was definitely improved, it remained super frustrating. Raw on Monday night was strong once again, and it was great to get through a nearly 3-hour show without hearing about the Canelo Alvarez Terrence Crawford fight about a dozen times. Nick Flynn at nflynn_17 wrote in asking if we watched the fight, had any thoughts. I consumed as much content around that as I possibly could. I don't have the boxing knowledge at the level I do wrestling knowledge, but I have been following it for the better part of 30 years. For expert analysis, please go find Brian Campbell. He knows everything about boxing, a lot more than I do. But that was one of the best fights I've watched in a long time. Legitimately competitive bell to bell, no bullshit, an absolute masterclass by Terrence Crawford, who cemented his legendary status. The first boxer in history to be undisputed champion in 3 different weight classes, dominated another of the modern era greats. Canelo is an all-timer himself. Despite it being a consistently competitive fight, Bud still did dominate. I won a lot of money on Bud, which was a bonus. My NFL picks, the first 2 weeks are a shade under 500. I normally hit around 58 to 62% per year. So this kind of not only evened me out, it put me seriously in the black. The presentation from TKO, it had its positives and negatives, but it absolutely had a big fight feel. And it's just the start of what they're doing with boxing. It was notable to me watching this broadcast. The Saudi Arabia mention and that guy Turkey got booed loudly by the Vegas crowd. WWE may really have dug themselves into like a 9-figure hole in terms of fan sentiment around WrestleMania 33. I don't see a scenario where fans suddenly become okay with it over the next 19 months. How WWE winds up promoting both the Royal Rumble in 2026 and then a WrestleMania in 2027 is going to be immensely interesting. Do they adjust crowd audio, not mention the location directly unless it's a tape package? It's going to be extremely curious going forward. Anyway, back to Raw. There were less than 8,000 people in attendance, but the building was sold out. This is because WWE purposefully went to Springfield, Massachusetts for John Cena. Outside of one segment where the fans were a bit too focused on putting themselves over, it was outstanding as a group from start to finish. It really elevated the show. And we're going to cover everything that happened across Raw and SmackDown momentarily here on the show. But first, we need to deviate with a topic all of you have been asking us to cover, and that is what we will tackle this week as we slide into the main event.
This is the main event.
But actually, before we get to that, Silver King does need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every single week. We're a free show. We're an ad-free show. Your support would help us immensely. Again, $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Now, normally, the main event is focused on the most significant storyline or storylines from WWE in a given week. Those will be covered today in our WWE Wrestlepalooza Ultimate Preview. There is a timestamp in the episode description. If you happen to be listening a lot closer and you want to jump just to the Ultimate Preview, you have the ability to do that. But here, we're going to focus on your ability to view Wrestlepalooza given WWE's shift from Peacock to ESPN for its premium live events in the United States. Because while we have spent 2 separate episodes of Getting Over digging through the details here, some appear to still be confused. And really, no shade if you're confused, because ESPN has done an exceedingly poor job rolling this out. And let me be clear, that is not any shade on ESPN's public relations staff. They work at the behest of the executives above them. So let's dig into all the ways you, as an American fan, can watch WWE Wrestlepalooza this Saturday on ESPN. For you international fans, it's available on Netflix. And we're going to come back to that fact, even for those of you in the United States. Okay, so Wrestlepalooza will air exclusively on the ESPN app, which is the term we will use for the streaming service on this show. However, the ESPN app has 2 levels of access. There is ESPN Select, which is the new name for ESPN Plus, an old system, and ESPN Unlimited, which is the new product that features every single sporting event that airs on any ESPN channel, plus exclusive content like WWE Premium Live Events. ESPN Unlimited can be accessed 3 ways. The first and most straightforward is subscribing to the ESPN app itself for $30 per month, $300 for the year. So you save $60. The second is similarly straightforward. You can subscribe to ESPN Unlimited, Hulu, and Disney Plus as a bundle at the same $30 per month rate. Now, I'm not sure if the $300 per year offer applies to this as well, but either way, it's a much better deal because you get Disney, Marvel, Hulu originals, and much more. The third, less straightforward, but cheapest way is to access ESPN Unlimited free via authentication through your current TV provider, be that traditional cable or streaming. While this comes at no additional cost, not every provider as of today can authenticate with ESPN Unlimited. Some only authenticate with ESPN Select. This is due to carriage agreements that ESPN is in the process of updating with some of the most prominent providers in the country. If you have TV access with ESPN through Hulu plus Live TV, DirecTV streaming, not the satellite dish, Fubo, Spectrum, or Verizon Fios, you can authenticate your login with the ESPN app. It will grant you ESPN Unlimited and WWE Premium Live Events for no additional cost. This is because all of those providers have updated carriage agreements with ESPN. However, if you have TV access with ESPN through YouTube TV, Comcast Xfinity, Cox, Dish, DirecTV Dish, or any other provider I have not mentioned, when you try to authenticate, you will only get ESPN Select access, which does not come with WWE Premium Live Events. ESPN and all of those providers are actively working on signing new carriage agreements. They will come eventually. And when they do, your access will be complimentary. So if you choose to sign up for ESPN Unlimited or the bundle, you will only have to do that for a few months as long as you have TV access with ESPN through YouTube TV, Comcast Xfinity, Cox, Dish, or any other provider I did not mention. However, there are other options at your disposal where you should be able to skirt some of these issues in the short term, potentially long term as well. And I will explain those to you now through the perspective of a YouTube TV customer. Both Vintage and I subscribe to that service, so I'm speaking not only with knowledge, but experience. If you do not have ESPN Unlimited access through your TV provider, and you do not want to pay $30 per month to ESPN, you have two options, neither of which is that hidden. The first option is that you can authenticate your app with a friend or family member's provider. This is best used if they won't be authenticating with ESPN at all themselves, but it's quite common for multiple people in the same household to have different accounts, so it should work even if they do. So find someone you know with Hulu plus Live TV, DirecTV streaming, Fubo, Spectrum, or Verizon Fios, authenticate with their provider, and you're good. Then, when your provider renews its carriage agreement, you switch back to yours. The second option is to eschew ESPN entirely. Subscribe to a VPN service. Download that app to your device, log into the VPN for any country other than the United States. Canada and the United Kingdom are generally the best, and watch ESPN Premium Live Events via Netflix. Getting Over is presently in talks with a couple VPN providers. We're trying to get a long-term show sponsorship, so I don't want to shout out one of them in particular here per se. We were supposed to have them in place for today's show. But if you are determined to do it immediately for Wrestlepalooza, you want a VPN, you can email us gettingoverpod@gmail.com. I will point you in the right direction with a link or code so you can get a discount for what I currently use. The goal of the WWE deal with ESPN is exposure. And when the agreement was made with the expectation of starting in January or April 2026, both sides expected that ESPN's carriage agreements would be completed. So anyone who is presently subscribed to a TV provider with ESPN would essentially get WWE Premium Live Events for free. And that is going to happen. Moving it up 5 to 7 months, that complicated matters because of the non-renewed carriage agreements. Now for ESPN, that may generate additional subscribers in the short term. For WWE, that's going to lead to a lot of frustration when people on Saturday pull up Peacock or think they can just sign into ESPN and watch, and they find out, oh wait, I have to pay more money for at least a couple of months here. So that is the difficulty of this situation. It's why I wanted to take the time and explain it to all of you. And that also wraps up the main event. And it allows us now to break down everything that happened across Monday Night Raw and SmackDown that did not directly have to do with Wrestlepalooza. And we're going to cover all of that as we always do, in the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
The WWE Women's Championship was on the line. Tiffany Stratton defending against Jade Cargill. This was the mid-show feature. WWE botched Cargill's entrance by not setting up the confetti properly. Lots of counters early, ending with a power slam from Cargill. Tiffy had a great double counter into a hurricanrana, hitting the handspring back elbow in the corner, a basement shotgun dropkick, and a scary as hell swanton bomb that almost completely cleared Jade's body. She only connected like the back of her head on Jade's abs, and given those things are so hard, she's lucky she didn't get concussed. Cargill caught Stratton sliding out of the ring for half a jaded into the ring apron. Stratton then hit her rolling senton, but Cargill prevented prettiest moonsault ever, pulling her off the top rope for an excellent blue thunder bomb with a too early kick out from Tiffy. Jade grabbed Tiffy for a chokeslam, licked her face, but Tiffy countered and ultimately hit an Alabama slam. However, Jade avoided prettiest moonsault ever, hit her pump kick coming back, with the fans beginning to cheer for her and actually boo Tiffy. Cargill missed Stratton on the apron, running herself into the ring post. She ate another basement shotgun dropkick only for Tiffy to eat shit on a ringside moonsault. Stratton definitely hurt herself on that move. Jade attacked by literally lifting up Tiffy and running her a good 5 yards into and through the barricade, and that resulted in a double countout. Nia Jax attacked out of the crowd, murking Cargill with a variety of offense, including a Samoan drop. Then she stopped Stratton cold with a push powerbomb and hit Annihilator to stand tall at the end of a 14-minute segment. I believe this was the best match of Jade Cargill's career, even with the finish. Full stop. Best match of her career. Tiffy is her fight forever opponent, even more so than Chris Statlander. They're great together every single time they match up, and this was their best showing by far. Super disappointing that WWE again did not pull the trigger and strap her up with the Women's Championship. She was working so well here that fans were literally rooting for her over Tiffy. That's a tough mountain to climb, and she did it in this match. Then the booking is a double countout so they can thrust Nia back into this shit when she didn't earn a number one contendership. Why? So they can do a triple threat? For what purpose? Jade winning the title out of a triple threat would be way, way, way too much unnecessary protection for Tiffy. She's 26 years old. She can lose clean to a woman who's built like a goddess. That would be like prime Charlotte Flair booking to protect Stratton in a triple threat. Nia getting another title match when Tiffy's beaten her 3 times would also be absurd. I do want to shout out Jax. I believe this is the most fit she has been throughout her entire WWE career. She looked great. She moved great. And let me be clear, we're not an anti-Nia show. Not since she stepped up her game in her return. But there is no reason for her to be hanging around this title picture still. She should be working in the United States Championship picture. And that's not saying that she's not good enough to be in the main event division. What it's saying is the mid-card badly needs legitimacy. And that is where she should be utilized. Despite my criticisms and annoyances, this was an obvious good as a match. 4 stars A-, even with a double countout. I was on my way to a full A for this if it finished properly. It was great. Individually, the best thing we've gotten from the SmackDown main event women's division in months. But yeah, I am not enthused with what seems to be coming next. United States Championship, Sami Zayn defended against Rey Fenix. WWE did a really strange reveal of Sami's first challenger backstage. Zayn was speaking to someone off camera, explaining how he was excited he stepped up and always wanted to fight him. Then the camera panned to Fenix, who got a positive, but, somewhat tepid response. I'm not sure why they thought this would be some big time reveal pop doing it this way. Fenix is awesome, but it's been start and stop with him in WWE. Plus, why not do the surprise in the ring? That's what made the US Open Challenge so cool. WWE in 2025 is so into spoiling its own shit that it's even doing it within its own shows. Remember Naomi's pregnancy announcement getting spoiled because they promoted Stephanie McMahon's podcast? Have Sami in the ring, cutting a 2-minute promo, and Rey Fenix comes out as the, surprise US Open challenger. That's how you do the surprise. It's what they did with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn when it came to John Cena. It's what they've done for years, spoiling it backstage and then saying this is going to be the opponent. It doesn't do that. And they did the same thing with someone else later in the show, by the way. Anyway, Sami hit a nice tilt-a-whirl backbreaker before Fenix did a tornado tope style, plus a tremendous counter hurricanrana. Fenix then avoided Helluva Kick and came back with a rolling spike DDT for, seriously, a 2.9999 kick out. Not purposeful, but I bet if you actually timed it, it's one of the closest near falls ever. Phoenix then did a double stomp literally on the top rope as Zayn sat on it leaning forward. He followed with a double jump springboard moonsault false finish. Sammy caught a springboard back elbow attempt perfectly for a blue thunderbomb with an arm lift false finish. Exploder suplex came after. Phoenix then countered haluva kick with a catch turnover pinning combination. Goodbye Amigo was landed by Phoenix, but as he briefly celebrated, Zayn ducked his back kick finisher, hitting a second exploder suplex and haluva kick to retain the title. The only flaw in this match is that it was interrupted by 2 commercial breaks. It took what was most likely a lower level A+ and reduced it because we missed 6+ minutes of fast-paced action right in the middle of the match. It was so legitimately great despite the missed time. I'm still going with an A, 4.5 stars. I simply can't assume what I didn't see. These guys put on a flat out, no doubt
Banger.
that is in the second tier of best TV matches for WWE in 2025, considering TLC kind of stands on its own as a 5-star match. What we saw on TV was flawless between them. Easily the best match of Phoenix's WWE career. He broke out in a major way, and WWE needs to keep this momentum going with more quality outings for him ASAP. Obviously good, a paradigm of how the in-ring part of professional wrestling can get talent over. And if we get more of this on SmackDown, it will hide a lot of the creative deficiencies of that program. Chelsea Green backstage stalked Nick Aldis out of his office, saying they've been more than patient and do not understand why they haven't gotten their women's tag team title match, suggesting Charlotte Flair was faking an injury. Aldis said the injury was legit, but she's been cleared and they're defending the titles Tuesday, and therefore Green Regime can get their opportunity after that. Aldis then found The Miz, cutting off his ask for a championship match. He said he already spoke to Carmelo Hayes, saying he took the bull by the horns, grabbed the title opportunity for himself. Miz assumed he meant for the tag team championships, but the way it was phrased, clearly Aldis meant Melo was going after the United States Championship as an open challenge participant. Chelsea and Miz had a really fun moment at the end of this. Later, Zayn put Phoenix over as a future megastar in WWE. Shinsuke Nakamura lurked in the background before Hayes approached and confidently made the challenge. Sammy said, "Melo, don't miss," as a warning, which actually hit pretty hard. Miz then came through angry to learn that Melo indeed took a title shot for himself before thinking of the team. He said he remains supremely confident in Melo long term, but he has no idea what it takes to be the United States champion, which is why he's trying to guide him to the tag team titles first, so that way he can mentor him in the short term and the long term. Melo basically answered, "Why not both?" reminding that Miz did that once. Miz smiled to his face, but he frowned behind his back. Piper Niven was, again, nowhere to be found, so it's going to be Chelsea and Alba Fire teaming up. Also, I believe this is the first time Green referred to herself as the hot mess since returning, even though it's part of her entrance music. Legit concerned about Piper, especially considering they're not even mentioning her on TV. Why not just say she's injured if she's injured? Must be something else. As I said, concerned about that. I presume the fake Charlotte injury and the delay was done to see if Piper could get back for the match, and now they're proceeding otherwise, which is really all they can do. Melo worked NXT on Tuesday. He will be working NXT again this week, so I didn't necessarily expect him on the show, but him popping up later, that was done well. He's being allowed to show character finally in juxtaposition to Miz, and the booking with Hayes looking out for himself, not allowing Miz to hold him down, it's pretty strong. If Miz costs him the match next week, that could light the fire between them, and it seems like Nakamura is going to get a chance down the line. Definite good for these back and forths. Aldis also had a very fun line about giving a feeling or giving a sentiment with Chelsea. He definitely had a good time on this show. Nick did. Lyra Valkyria fought Roxanne Perez on Raw. Raquel Rodriguez got distracted early while interfering as the competitors had some hard-hitting spots in the opening. Perez hit her double jump moonsault plus a Frankensteiner later and double knees to a back that Valkyria was already selling. Lyra then used the ropes to counter out of a crossface, hitting Nightwing for the win. Raquel attacked Lyra from behind as she was walking down the ramp with Roxy hitting Pop Rocks as an exclamation point. That led to Bayley making her return to a surprisingly huge pop. She took out Perez immediately, then countered Rodriguez while being lifted in the air with a cutter. Bayley to belly on Perez sent the heels running as fans loudly chanted for Bayley. Lyra was hesitant to celebrate her, but after Bayley visibly calmed the voices in her head, she ran over to ringside, gave hugs to commentary, Alicia Taylor, the referee, security, and even some individual fans, male and female. It's tough to tell these days since I watch without commercials, but I felt like A significant portion of this match happened during the break, with it finishing rather quick upon returning. They got 9 minutes, so it wasn't necessarily short, but the commercial breaks generally max out at 3 minutes. It felt like, just as a viewer, this was a 4 minute or longer break, and therefore it felt like it took half the match. I could be wrong about that, but I also don't like when they come back from break and then a match ends after, 2 minutes, let's say. That's super frustrating, especially when you saw the long ass matches on SmackDown, because these two absolutely deserved more time together. I spoke already about Jade and Tiffy being fight forever opponents. I believe the same is true with Lyra and Roxy. They are incredible together. But again, I just would have liked a little bit more time, especially if Lyra was going to win clean and definitively like she did. It's a similar situation to what happened with AJ Styles and Finn Balor a couple weeks ago. You want to give us a great matchup with a clean finish on TV? Great. I'm not complaining. But it should probably be like 13, 14, 15 minutes, not 7, 8, or 9. Their work was great while it lasted. Bayley's save was perfect. WWE spent a month making a concerted effort to give her a fresh gimmick. Bayley crushed those videos one after another, and then she returned here to a tremendous, deserved ovation. Probably the loudest pop she's received since winning the championship at WrestleMania 40. The gimmick is completely on point. They nailed it. Wearing the new AJ Lee shirt was a really nice touch. She looked great, moved incredibly well too. Maybe she had a minor corrective surgery or something like that. I'm not sure, but she moved like she was 5 years younger here. I hope the same way Bayley quieted the voices and ran around as the hugger, she also quiets the voices and acts as the role model, so you never exactly know what Bayley you're going to get in any segment or any show. But this was a complete good. I actually am now forgetting there was another segment. Lyra later came across Bayley screaming at herself in her locker room. The door was closed. Something loudly banged against it. That scared Lyra. But when she opened it, Bayley was sitting calmly on the couch just looking at her phone. Valkyria thanked her for helping, but Bayley immediately snapped, given the way Lyra insulted her the last time they saw each other, yelling to stay out of her locker room and calling her an idiot. So yeah, they're knocking this out of the park. A logical follow-up to what happened in the ring. And this episode in particular, the backstage really felt alive because of moments like this. There is no reason we cannot get more of that weekly on Raw, and some of it weekly on SmackDown. It makes the show so much more compelling. Now Lyra has no idea what to expect from Bayley, and neither do we moment to moment as viewers. Another clear good. I said a bit ago, they've been building this for 4 to 5 weeks. They've actually been building it for months, at least since SummerSlam, if not all the way back to WrestleMania. That I'm not so sure about if they had this in mind then, but it's at least been months to this point. Penta fought Kofi Kingston on Raw. New Day got a commercial break promo for what, like the 40th straight week? Kofi hit a frog splash off the apron onto Penta, which looked great. Penta came back with his handstand corner boots to the chest and a massive, loud chop. Kingston answered with SOS as Xavier Woods yelled out something about Shelbyville during a match in Springfield, which was a little fun reference. When Woods distracted, Grayson Waller attempted his rolling cutter, but Penta caught him cold with a super kick before countering Kofi with a springboard Mexican destroyer for the win. Kingston did a really fun sell post-match, stayed knocked out on the canvas. His eyes were completely glazed over. This was a blast. Another match that if given 5 more minutes, we'd be talking about it in a different light. It was definitely good while it lasted. I'd say around 3.5 stars B, but the finish was phenomenal. My only question, now that Penta is not only beating these guys one by one, but has already defeated them as a trio, how can we believe in the heels and why is he still feuding with them? It's a really tough question. So we had Dragon Lee against El Grande Americano. The new entrance music seriously sucks for Grande. This was hot immediately at the bell. Americano caught Lee on the ropes for a cutter off of Fireman's Carry. Then he hit a Death Valley driver that Corey Graves called a senton. Graves, you're better than that. Dragon answered via Hurricanrana over the ropes outside, and he hit a Tope Suicida cannonball literally into the announce table. The crowd went wild for that. A tremendous sequence followed, ending with a float over Liger Bomb and a hanging double stomp chaser. When Dragon went for Grande's mask, Alto Americano spawned out of nowhere, allowing Grande to capitalize and hit an Escalera blockbuster for a false finish. AJ Styles saved, chasing Alto under the ring, throwing him over the barricade. That's when Corto appeared, hitting a tornado DDT on AJ off the barricade. Corto then returned, shoving Dragon off the top rope before Grande put a new submission on with knees to the back and a jaw wrench for the win. Just to clarify, it was Alto Americano who actually shoved him off the rope, not Corto. It's easy to get them confused. The Americanos celebrated together for the first time and pointed at each other like the Spider-Man meme. It seemed like the booking is Grande is unaware of why the other two are helping him, which is an interesting twist, as opposed to it being all planned out in advance. During the commercial break, Grande was interviewed, but only spoke in Spanish, saying it was important to know he's Mexican. He refused to answer a question about the other Americanos. Match was awesome, including the interference. There are times and places where stuff like this is appropriate, particularly when it's blocked in a way that it makes sense to create the desired match result. Dragon was not going to beat Grande here, but he came across as the stronger, more talented competitor, and he got to show out on TV for the 4th week in a row. I'm extremely curious to see how the Americanos get booked together, especially since it seems American Made has been completely sacrificed for it. I don't necessarily mind them disappearing off TV, but it is strange considering the tag team division, it needs workers, and Ivy is really solid in her own right. Even without Chad Gable, they're still valuable. Anyway, obvious good. It is getting a little bit annoying that Dragon keeps losing to Grande, even if it's happening in this manner where there's a distraction or an interference. Given Grande got a loss recently, Dragon needs to get over him without any bullshit at some point. As far as the Styles involvement, like, why is he doing this? It makes sense in storyline, but a mid-card feud, really? Like, in September 2025, when his contract's expiring in a few months? I mean, I'm sure he'll extend it a little bit to WrestleMania, but why is this what he's doing? It's just really, really odd. The match was fantastic. 3.75 stars, B+. Without interference, it probably would have gone to 4 stars if Dragon won. And by the way, I was at 3.75 stars, B+ for Lyra and Roxanne as well. I just completely forgot to give you that grade. Earlier in the show, Dominic Mysterio backstage put himself over as the new AAA Mega Champion, saying he's now the Mega Intercontinental Champion. While dodging questions about Grande and Judgment Day, there was suddenly a commotion nearby with Woods needing to be pulled off Penta after presumably beating him with a steel chair. Mysterio later got a champagne toast in the Judgment Day clubhouse, with Finn Balor getting a hysterically tiny pour comparatively. Balor was negative, saying it wasn't all good for them. Perez lost earlier, and Grande continues to be an issue because he's not part of their faction. JD McDonough calmed Balor down, agreeing they do need to know, however, what Grande wants. Dom said he clearly just wants the respect of the king of the luchadors, but the guys both gave him the cold shoulder and left, saying, "Don't come looking for us when you need help." Rusev then stormed in, decisively telling Dom he'd be the next Intercontinental Champion after Dom refused to shake his hand because his hands were full when they weren't. He had nothing in his hands. It's kind of a shame that Dominic didn't get an in-ring promo with the title. Odd that he's been stuck backstage for months when he garners some of the best live reactions of anyone in WWE. Just like we've said about Rhea Ripley, happened again for her Monday night. She did not perform live in front of the crowd. Anyway, it's nice for the Judgment Day clubhouse to come alive again. Wish it was a little bit longer, a little bit more involved, but the angle of Dom and Grande creating issues with Balor and McDonough, that is intriguing for sure. This was good. Bo Dallas and Eric Rowan interrupted the broadcast on SmackDown, asking what's next for the Street Profits now that they failed their test. They said their brotherhood is infected and rotting. They need to let the disease consume them, given they've lost everything. Bo said they weren't to blame. They were just the match that lit the fuse. He ended with, "Follow the buzzards," which I could be wrong, but I believe that's the first time it's been said by anyone since Bray Wyatt's death. This was actually good. It was interesting that the champions weren't the ones speaking, but rather two dudes who never wrestle that are part of this faction. Maybe that's the point. The Profits are out of the title picture, but could possibly get over them to maintain their relationship or fail against them and it crumbles for good. But yeah, I was into this for sure. And for those of you who did not listen to our bonus episode from last week, Wyatt Six appeared at the AAA WWE Worlds Collide show, and it seems like they're going after those tag team championships as well. Aleister Black got a promo package saying he succeeded in his mission to inject Damian Priest with enough venom of doubt that it would manifest itself sooner than later. He said he was the sickness and the cure. He'll stay sick, Priest will, if he keeps fighting, or he'll be cured if he embraces the darkness inside of him. This was a bit word salady, and I'd have liked it if Black got another match on the back of the win over Priest to solidify himself. He just says a lot of stuff. The guy needs to actually go out there and dominate. Let him beat the uninjured Pretty Deadly guy in 4 minutes or something like that. You know, get him involved in a United States Championship feud with a storyline. Do something meaningful. This gets a light bad. Nothing wrong with it, but it was really just a shrug. Solo Sikoa cut a tape promo saying he sacrificed everything in his life, including family, to win the United States title, only for Zayn to rip it out of his hands. Sikoa promised change would happen sooner than later. He was sick of being stuck in the shadows. Instead, he wants others living in his shadow and that of my family tree. This was Solo's best promo maybe ever. Seriously, pitch perfect. It doesn't change that MFT is a jobber stable with an all-time awful name that quickly wore out its welcome. But having MFT off the show for over a month, maybe it's super refreshing for them when they come back. And Jacob Fatu, by the way, hasn't been around in a while either. This was good. Julia and Kiana James interrupted BFAB on a phone call talking shit about the way they took out Michin last week. BFAB said she was busy with the Street Profits, which is the only reason they got to gang up on Michin. Friends like these, huh, Gary? Anyway, it was basically a put your money where your mouth is segment leading to a scheduled match. So we got entrances for Julia and BFAB, but the match never started. BFAB attacked Kiana before the bell, allowing Julia to get up on her with the Arrivederci knee. As she threatened to stomp BFAB into the canvas, Michin saved with a kendo stick, murked Kiana, and the heels ran away. This was probably the best overall presentation involving these four in a couple of months. That said, it's incredibly lacking. If you were building a tag team storyline, okay, it would work, but that's not what they're doing. There was storyline relevance given the character relationships, but this Julia-Kiana pairing, it just does not work, at least not yet. And James continues to look ridiculous. She's out there dressing like a stripper every week. No other woman in WWE dresses like that, and she's supposed to be a serious business person. It's antithetical to her character, taking what may be an okay concept to give Julia a manager and instead having it come off absolutely ridiculous. So while this is still bad for me, I'm actually on a super light bad tip because everyone actually did well. But Julia is never going to get over by wrestling low carders who do not generate crowd reaction. Look at who Lyra Valkyria worked with on Raw as a comparison. Can you imagine if instead of fighting Becky Lynch and Bayley, she fought Maxine Dupree and Natalya? That's the comparison. I do need to mention, by the way, BFAB had the weirdest looking accessory. I don't even know what to call it. One of her ears was entirely covered in what looked like, you know, that stuff like on a gum wrapper, the silver stuff that you take and you peel it off and you would put it on your school desk or something. It looked like she did that around her ear. I could not make any sense of that. Also, why is Nikki Cross not wrestling? You cannot tell me that adding Fallon Henley to the SmackDown roster and getting Nikki Cross involved wrestling again would not improve this women's division markedly. Why not pull the US Open Challenge deal with Julia and let her fight some NXT talents as a means of transitioning them to the main roster? It is maddening. This by far. The Raw Tag Team division is not booked well. This is booked worse because it's actually on TV and it's failing. And there is no reason that someone as talented as Julia should be failing. It is entirely on creative. It's entirely on the SmackDown side. And I just don't get it.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
And that wraps up the good, the bad, and the ugly, which allows me finally to welcome in vintage Chris Vanini. Chris, we have a ton to talk about when it comes to WWE Wrestlepalooza. How was your weekend, and where are you broadcasting from this time?
I am back in my parents' basement where I have done this show a handful of times. Listeners might remember a couple of months ago, my grandmother passed. We had her funeral this weekend. It was very lovely. Got to see a lot of family. Haven't seen in a while. So that is where I am now. As the football season goes on, who knows where I'll be for various things. But right now, Detroit, Michigan, in that Midwestern basement.
Of course. Obviously, extremely sorry to hear that, but at least you got an opportunity to see family, hopefully celebrate life, and do, I don't want to say the positive things that surround it, but, you know, when you get an opportunity to come together and remember someone, you know, it can bring a lot of joy amid the grief. So hopefully, you know, that is how that was able to transpire for all of you. Yeah. Lots for us to talk about here on the show. Already gone pretty deep on a lot of subjects here. Any major takeaways from WWE television this week? I'll give you kind of a once over of all the topics that we've already covered. The WWE Women's Championship storyline involving Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, Nia Jax, the United States Championship match, Sami Zayn and Rey Fenix, the whole deal with, you know, Chelsea Green and Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss and that title match getting delayed, seemingly Piper Niven not being around. Lyra Valkyria and Roxanne Perez, their match with Bayley and her disassociated identity disorder, if I'm saying that properly, gimmick that she's currently doing. Penta, Kofi Kingston, and the New Day, that deal. The multiple Americanos, El Grande Americano, Corto, and Alto against Dragon Lee and kind of AJ Styles involving himself. The Judgment Day chaos, the stuff going on with the Wyatt Six, Aleister Black's promo package, MFT and Solo Sikoa actually cutting that pretty damn good promo on SmackDown, and the whole deal with the Women's United States Championship over on the Blue brand. Any overriding thoughts that you want to share before we get into the true meat of this program, which is the WWE Wrestlepalooza Ultimate Preview?
Two extremely small things.
Okay.
One, Dom's interview backstage when he reveals and he explains, I'm the Intercontinental Champion and I'm the Mega Champion. Like the Mega Intercontinental Champion, I think he said. It should just be Mega Continental Champion, just like when Kurt Angle had the European and the Intercontinental. It was the Euro-Continental Championship is what we called it. So just make it one word. It's way easier. Other one, Ray Fenix's entrance is way too long.
Yeah.
It takes too long for people to know who he is when he comes out. He got a cheer when people realized, oh, it's Ray Fenix. But that intro went on for like 10 to 15 seconds of just noise and stuff before anybody knows what is going on.
Well,
tighten that thing up.
Don't forget how weird it is, right? Because you have Logan Paul's entrance where he says like something like "Hey yo" or something like that. Like "Hey yo," that's like Logan Paul's. So Ray Phoenix's entrance was "Animo," Spanish word, but it sounded exactly the same. So now the entrance begins. It sounds like the dude's orgasming or something like that. And you're like, what the hell is this? What's this weird sound coming over? And then the whole thing ramps up, and then his name finally flashes on the screen. You're like, oh, it's Ray Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see it.
I don't know if they keep continually. I know they've changed it several times, so I don't know if they keep changing it every time or I just haven't gotten used to this one because we haven't seen him enough. But yeah, tighten that thing up. Make it clear quickly who this is.
Given all the subjects I just mentioned, those were two pretty random thoughts, I will say, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We already covered everything else in great depth here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast because that's what we do, to quote Mark Henry, of course. Let's move into the WWE Wrestlepalooza Ultimate Preview. Chris, this is a 5-match card, which we have come to expect from WWE, but not really for a show of this magnitude. Debuting on a new streamer, this huge deal with ESPN. For some of the other shows, a Clash in Paris, which I actually think had 6, but Backlash or this or that, 5 matches. We know that's what WWE is giving us. We always want 6 or 7. It disappoints us. But then we come around to, WrestleMania, SummerSlam. We're getting 7, 8 matches per night, and they're much better about that. I wasn't expecting this necessarily to be booked like a SummerSlam night, but given the gravity of the deal with ESPN and the way WWE always puts its best foot forward for that first show with a new partner, we saw it Raw on Netflix, how much they loaded up that show, the SmackDown debut on Fox prior to that. It is somewhat surprising to me that despite an immense amount of star power, the big names are on this card, no question about it. 5 matches, when there's a lot of other talent in the company doing great stuff, it feels kind of thin.
The card is, for a 5-match card, it's incredible.
It is.
Like, you can't ask for much more out of a 5-match card. Also, it's an American show, and it's in an arena, not a stadium. Like, you don't get this kind of card for arena shows very often anymore. So I do want to appreciate that. And I think anybody who goes to the show in Indianapolis, you're getting a heck of a show kind of for all things considered there. Usually it's only an arena show if it's over in Europe or something like that. So it's a really good card on paper. It's just that most of this has been booked very poorly or haphazardly or rushed, and there's not much deep storyline to any of it. But the star power is undeniable.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say most of it. It's just 2 key matches in particular. Excuse me. 3 key matches in particular, due to one circumstance or another, haven't been built well. And yes, that is the majority of the card, but there are different reasons for each situation. The biggest issue, which we will talk about momentarily, is the main event, where there's no storyline other than they've hated each other for a long time, and you should remember that.
Yes.
So, look, There is a possibility that WWE adds a sixth match on the Go Home SmackDown. It's not impossible, but it's going to be difficult, right? Neither mid-card on that brand right now has a number one contender. The tag team division is all over the place. The women's title looks to be headed for a triple threat. I suppose they could bubble that up for the show and make it work, turn that around in one night, because I don't think anyone's really buying tickets to see any of those three compared to the other stars that are already on the card. So maybe they throw a second women's title match on here, but that to me would be the absolute maximum they can do. And even that I think is highly unlikely, them adding a sixth match with 24 hours notice. I mean, they could maybe announce it Wednesday or Thursday and then solidify it on Friday. But if we get to Friday and no match is announced for Wrestlepalooza, then I think we're stuck at 5, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and maybe you get some short little thing for a popcorn match before the main event to let people catch their breath, because there's not a lot of room on this card for people to catch their breath.
I don't even know what you would put on in that spot. I mean, maybe they'll do a segment or two on the show. I could see that,
like an R-Truth thing or something. I don't know, just to kind of cool it down a little bit.
I could see like a segment that involves Logan Paul somehow setting up another feud. Like he comes out, he's like, how are we making this debut on ESPN? And I'm not booked for the show. Talk shit. Someone comes out, like Randy Orton RKO's him. Like I could see something like that happening. To your point, like a little like popcorn type of deal. But yeah, other than that, it's a stacked 5-match card.
Also curious, Stephen A. Smith, do we get ESPN personalities involved? Do they try to do something like that? I wouldn't rule it out.
Well, not only would I not rule it out, there's going to be a heavy ESPN presence there. And I'm not saying that with knowledge. I'm simply saying anyone who is not committed to football on that network, I would expect to see there. So you're not going to see Joe Tessitore. Obviously, he has a game to call Saturday. Even if it's his afternoon game, I think he usually gets the 3:30 ESPN game for SEC. Ooh. Excuse me, the SEC game.
That might be the game I'm at. I should look this up because I'm going to Auburn, Oklahoma. Maybe we'll be in the same building.
Yeah, he usually gets that. So I don't think. I mean, there's no way he could make it there in time after the fact. So the ESPN personalities you may see there are folks who are on the outskirts of their football coverage. So Stephen A. Smith is actually a great call. I would bet $1 million that Pat McAfee is there. It's in Indianapolis.
Yes.
He has commitments in the morning for College Game Day. He can fly over after the fact. It's going to be super easy for him. So yeah, there will be an ESPN presence. Again, I'm not reporting that. I'm just telling you that it's blatantly obvious given everything else we've seen with WWE in similar situations with Netflix, Fox, etc. All right, Chris, look, let's not waste any more time. We have 5 matches to discuss, and we have a ton to talk about inside of each one. Let's start with what I would consider the lowest match on the card, the Usos against The Vision. LA Knight ran up to shove Jey Uso as the guys entered the arena to open Raw. Adam Pearce blew a gasket like 4 minutes into the show, telling them to get in his office or get fined. They continued arguing in Pearce's office, with Jey explaining that the spear was a receipt. Knight was offered a piece of the Vision if he would just chill about Jey at least for the next few nights. So he agreed, and he twisted the knife, choosing Jimmy as his tag team partner. Knight later approached Jimmy, informing him of the decision, saying he trusted him after he got his back last week. Jimmy basically said it wasn't a good idea, and since he already had the Vision on his plate next week, Saturday he meant, LA needed to find a different partner. Then we saw Jey backstage clearly leaving a message for Roman Reigns, though not telling Jimmy who he called. Jey told Jimmy to say no when LA asks him to be his partner. Jimmy didn't like his demanding tone, and Jey reminded, no one else matters but family. Jimmy informed him he already told Knight that he wasn't going to be his partner, but he ain't taking orders from a guy who isn't the tribal chief and doesn't have the Ulafala around his neck. Cold ass line right there. After another break, Jimmy stormed over to LA, changed his mind, decided to be partnered with him. This all happened in the first hour of the show, literally from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, which surprised me a little bit because you figure that this would build throughout the entire portion of the program leading into the main event. But it actually came across a lot more realistic this way. It continued to paint Jey as a growing egomaniac while giving Jimmy actual agency that his character has sorely needed for years. Knight is serving as like the fulcrum that has kept him involved in an upper mid-card feud with multiple potential challengers and opportunities coming out of it. I know people think that this is pretty repetitive, but there are individual like ends of shows where I feel that with the storyline. The build to this match on Monday night, I didn't feel that way at all. I thought it was refreshing, unique, and I was engaged at the situation going on with all three of these guys.
This is the second best build to any of the matches on the card, and it's pretty much the second of two that have a build, to your point earlier. This has, for 2 weeks in a row now, Raw has been built around this story. Like, yes, you have the CM Punk Seth stuff going on, but that's not bookending the shows. We're getting this Vision, Jimmy, Jay, LA Knight stuff, and it's interesting. It's just basic human interaction. Where like a guy doesn't have to be a heel to have a problem with the babyface, and people just kind of bicker a little bit. And I really liked, like what you said, Jimmy had some agency. He's not just doing what each of them tell him to do, and so like, it has like slowly built over a couple of weeks. This doesn't have to be the most amazing feud ever, but it's also more than just a 1 week thing. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, to your point, look, the World Heavyweight Championship on the men's side is not being defended on this show. Okay. They have the 4 biggest stars on Raw right now involved in another, non-title situation, a mixed tag team match, which is the biggest match from Raw that's going to be on WrestlePalooza. But this is the biggest and most consistent storyline that they've been telling leading into the show for an extended period of time. And again, there's a faction of people out there who say they're bored with it and whatever. And I'm kind of okay if you feel that way. But to suggest that they're not A, making a concerted effort, and B, booking it in a way that it's actually progressing week to week, if you think that, you're just not paying attention. As far as I'm concerned,
it would be so easy for them to just save the CM Punk AJ stuff for the end of the show. Like that is what you would typically think WWE would do. It's a credit to them that they have spent 2 episodes of Raw building a story throughout this thing, this Vision versus the Usos and LA Knight thing, and given that time throughout the show to breathe and take steps throughout the show. Like it'd be so easy to do. You got a segment at the beginning. You do a match in the middle, and that's it. Instead, we're getting several things, and it's getting 2 straight main events. I like that.
And by the way, it's not just that. It's the women's storyline, too. And I know Stephanie Vaquer hadn't really been involved until recently in that. But that storyline has gotten more time on Raw the last, I want to say, 3 weeks, maybe even 4, than anything else. This, with the Usos and LA Knight, this extended storyline and the Braun Brawns, it's second. And the other one is third, the mixed tag team storyline. So that is the biggest, and it's been the best. But these are the storylines getting more time. We're not getting backstage segments with CM Punk and AJ Lee talking to each other, or Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch planning stuff. We're getting them in the ring live in front of people, and everything else is happening both backstage and live in front of fans, and it's been better off for it. So let's continue with what happened Monday night on Raw here. The Vision later got a taped promo stating that the Usos are clearly one of the greatest tag teams ever, but they're ready to assert themselves as even better and stronger. Bronson Reed led the promo, saying he would not hold Braun Breaker back from destroying them Monday and then Saturday, which would leave Jay having learned the same lesson as Roman. Seth Rollins' vision is unwavering. Probably the best we've gotten from them as a duo to date. Breaker did much better from a promo perspective. I liked Reed leading it. He's more of a veteran. He's a little bit more confident on the mic. And as a team, they do look, sound, and present themselves as legitimate, not just working with upper mid-carders, but as potential tag team champions.
They are, I've said this for a long time, they look so much better when it's just the 2 of them, without Seth and now without Becky. When you just have the 2 of them, you just look at them and you're like, dang, look at those 2 guys. They could beat up anybody. When they're behind Seth, they both look like lackeys. So I've loved that Seth has not been involved in this, that they've been totally separate to kind of do their own things. I guess my only issue would be calling them the Vision, basically. Like when you look at those 2 guys, the Vision is not what I think of. I want a tag team name for these 2 guys. Something about just we call them the Bronze, I guess. Maybe we just go for that, but I kind of like that more even than calling them the Vision. It just does. You look at those 2 guys, and you don't think the Vision is all.
It was a little deal, but one of my favorite things back in the day, and this happened both in WCW and WWE. You had the NWO, but you had the Outsiders.
Yes.
And in WWE, you had Degeneration X and you had the New Age Outlaws. They
Yep.
were parts of the whole. And with New Age Outlaws, they existed as a tag team concurrently with DX, but not as a part of it. The Outsiders, as a duo, started and wrestled and had matches before Hulk Hogan joined, Hollywood Hogan joined, and they formed the NWO as a trio, and then obviously it grew from there. So it's a little bit of a different situation, but nevertheless, I wish that like Finn Balor and JD McDonough had a tag team name within the Judgment Day, because they get called the Judgment Day. And when Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez pair up, they're also called the Judgment Day. And when the Braun Brawns team up, they're called the Vision. But no, and when Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde team up, they're called LWO. No, these are all teams within larger groups and factions. So I do agree with you. I wish they had a separate name. It would help them stand out even more than they already do. To your point about them looking better together without Seth, I just think that the issue was how generic they were dressed. They stood there almost like security guards behind him and Paul Heyman, and that look for them didn't work. But now that you brought the Shula Fala into stuff, and Braun Breaker's wearing a t-shirt, and I know a t-shirt versus a plain black shirt, it's not that different, but it is. It just, you see the person and you have a different visual of them. So I believe that has helped. And frankly, this is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later too, Chris. Heyman not being there anymore, it's actually elevated the group. They don't need him. I think he was actually weighing them down. And I will state when I say that Paul Heyman is the greatest manager type talent ever. And this would be the first time I'd probably ever say that about him.
Yeah, no, we said that when he went away. There was too many other people who needed to talk for themselves, and he was just taking up space that could have been given to somebody else. He's amazing. Yeah. It just wasn't needed, and especially now that Becky's there, it's completely not needed.
It would almost be better if he's like a consigliere who shows up sometimes in backstage segments, but when they come to the ring, he doesn't go with them.
Yeah, like when he was with CM Punk, he wasn't talking all the time. Like they let Punk do the talking most of it. So
yeah, like I don't mind them keeping Heyman a part of it when they bring him back, but they have to reduce his role significantly. Anyway, a lot more to talk about here. So we had LA Knight and Jimmy against the Vision in the main event. The heels dominated early with Breaker getting all of his stuff in. Jimmy turned the tide by breaking out of the double team before Knight got the hot tag, hitting a blockbuster before countering Jagged Edge into a sling blade. Jimmy blind tagged on the jump up elbow with Uso splash following for a broken fall. Jimmy hit a super kick and a spear on Reed, but as he went up for the Uso splash, Breaker annihilated Knight ringside with a flying shoulder tackle off the apron. Reed then took Jimmy off the ropes for Jagged Edge and the win. Vision obviously attacked after the bell with Breaker turning Jimmy inside out with a rope run spear. Jay obviously saved before Tsunami, but Reed punched the steel chair out of his hand. Jay nevertheless got it back, delivered 2 strong chair shots to the back. Knight grabbed the chair that Jay dropped. Jay put his arms out saying, "Hey, we're good." He offered a handshake. LA dropped the chair, fully dapped him up, only to spin Jay around for a BFT and a Steve Austin-like rant in his face to end the show. I saw people complaining that this was, again, a repetitive finish. And I say again, do some fans simply not understand like storytelling and the idea of pairing creative plot points together? This was exactly what it needed to be, both paralleling last week and building intrigue for what was otherwise a pretty plain tag team match without that much at stake. Knight getting his lick back, not being satisfied with Jay's receipt comment, that obviously made sense because dude is not going to take shit like that lying down. It's not his character. And now there are a ton of options, both in terms of the way this match finishes Saturday and how this storyline develops moving forward. You have 3 faces with distinct motivation, all playing off one another while they're simultaneously enhancing their individual characters. It was also a smart way to take both Jay and LA out of the world title picture, at least temporarily, while building the mixed tag team match. So I thought this was super successful. And no, this really wasn't like, Breaker running in and hitting Knight with the referee's back turned and therefore costing the face the match. Reed took him off the ropes. I think Braun grabbed his foot briefly to prevent him from jumping. That's a standard heel tactic. Reed hit a finisher and got the win. And that's one more thing I want to say. Sorry, Chris, I know you want to get in here. I criticized last week them having Reed beat Knight with Jagged Edge, which is his Death Valley driver, a new name they just gave it. I am now pretty sure, given he won this match the same way, they are trying to reduce the number of tsunamis he attempts because it is technically a more dangerous move, even though it was off of like a steel cage type of structure. It is the way he injured himself. So doing a tsunami every single time he's in the ring, it's just not necessary. The Death Valley Driver looks good. Jagged Edge is a great name. So I'm all in for it. And I retract my complaint last week because it made a lot more sense when they did it back to back here.
Yeah, no, this was good. Like, this storytelling, this is what we want. Like, when LA Knight kind of daps up Jay, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was like, this is such an LA Knight's character to want to get his back. And then when they dapped up after the chair, I was like, well, I guess maybe he's not going to do it. I don't know if I like that, but maybe he's not going to do it. And then he does it. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, that's like, it takes time to tell a story. If you want a story to be told, you have to go one beat at a time. Like, it made perfect sense. It continues to make the Bronze look good and get wins while the faces bicker a little bit. And it sets up some more intrigue going into this match. I liked it.
By the way, I just wanted to shout out like the actual group Jagged Edge, because I don't know if many of you listening who are younger know like the R&B group from the early 2000s. Two of my favorite songs growing up were Jagged Edge. One was featuring Ludacris, Cut Something, and the other was featuring Nelly, Where to Party At remix. And there's a great line that, you know, doesn't really make any sense in the context of this show. But every single time I hear Joe Tessitore say Jagged Edge when Bronson Reed, I think of this Ludacris line: Jagged Edge, grabbing legs, women in the morning, scrambling eggs. I just every single time, and it's never going to stop. Shout out to Jagged Edge. I just want to say that right there.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, in terms of this match, Chris, from a prediction standpoint, I don't see any way the Usos win. It wouldn't make sense logically. It wouldn't make sense from a storytelling perspective. You have the Brawns. You need to build them up. You had them just beat LA Knight and Jimmy Uso. If you actually put them over the Usos after they cut a promo saying they are one of the greatest tag teams of all time, that primes them to be a number one contender for the tag team titles. And we have been talking about it for a couple months now, that you strap those guys up with titles, you let them go through babyface team after babyface team. You eventually put a pair of big time singles performers together if you don't have a strong babyface team on Raw at any given time. And they're the ones who eventually end that reign. If it's me, dude, I have them, win this match, win the tag team titles, and you're building them against the Usos rematch at a major show, whether that is the Royal Rumble, whether that's WrestleMania. You got plenty of time to get there, but that's the booking, and it all has to start with Breakker and Reed beating the Usos here at WrestlePalooza. Maybe with Knight factoring in. He comes down, they think he's going to help. He doesn't do anything. He just winds up being a distraction. Jake yells at him, gets caught. That's the end of the match.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me think otherwise would be that the Bronze won on Monday. And while the faces have kind of bickered, the Bronze have generally come out on top of a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, I'm thinking in, typical WWE, what happens. So That's what should happen. What should happen is the Bronze win. They move on to look for tag team gold. LA Knight maybe literally costs them. We get into an LA Knight Jay thing. Maybe Jimmy's his own person too, and we're doing a three-way type of thing. And then eventually we get the Usos back together for real. Because I had said this when they got back together like last week or the week prior, which was just like, is that it? Like, we're back to the Usos like that, and there wasn't really kind of much of a build. They just were together, cut a promo, and that was it. Maybe now you can book that a little bit better and really get the Usos to become a tag team again to try to take the belts off of the Bronze, perhaps at, I don't know, WrestleMania. I think that'd be really cool. So that's what I think. My pick is the same as yours.
Yeah, there's no way they're going this deep with Jay's ego and Roman being in his ear and Jimmy not having it to not have this pay off in a significant way. I mean, you bring, Reigns back after he finishes filming Street Fighter. You do the War Games match, the Vision plus whomever you need to add against the bloodline plus whomever they need to add. Maybe LA Knight is part of that. They lose that as well. And then you build everything up potentially. I mean, I still don't know, even today, and it's kind of fun and interesting. I don't know if Seth Rollins is going to be fighting CM Punk or Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Both are legitimate options, but you could theoretically build, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, and then the Usos against the Vision as 2 mega matches for that card. And I really don't think anyone's complaining about that, especially if the Vision has a really long title reign going into that show, and that's the culmination of the Usos coming back together and becoming champions again.
It would be a great story for Roman and the Usos to be the ones to take all the gold away from the Vision, similarly to how all the gold got taken away from them.
Absolutely. And just a couple years removed from that. And yeah, there's a lot of places you can go. I don't know. It's a really good question that we don't have time to talk about now. We should really discuss it on a later date. Is Roman Reigns ever going to be a WWE or World Heavyweight Champion again? Because he's
one
never
or
there.
the other, yes. One or the
I mean,
other.
He will be, but how many more times and how often? Like, it's not going to be a lot. He's never there.
Yeah.
And Triple H, to his credit, Triple H, to his credit, though, he doesn't book like, the way Vince McMahon booked Brock Lesnar, where he was okay with having an absent champion for months at a time. He wants the titles on TV. So,
as he should. He created a whole second title.
Exactly. Yeah. Because of that, because there was an issue with the first one. And yeah, exactly. All right. Let's move to the Women's World Championship. Io Sky against Stephanie Vaquer. Vaquer and Sky each offered respect for one another backstage after signing their contract. Asuka stormed into Pierce's office with new makeup, an entire snake going from the top of her forehead, across her nose, down her face, to her neck and her clavicle area. It looked badass. She said Stephanie's not ready for Io, then individually decided Vaquer would fight Kairi Sane on the show. And Pierce is like, oh, I'm not going to argue with this woman. She's freaking nuts. Kairi sold the surprise by getting ready for action. The handshake stuff at the beginning was kind of eye-rolling. It would have been nice to get some level of heat for the match in that moment. Asuka and Kairi were again super entertaining. I hate to use this word to describe an adult, but Sane was kind of precious the way she got shocked by the match suggestion, only to gear herself up for the fight like she was a video game character. Oh my God, I have to fight right now. And she starts hitting herself and getting in a fighting stance. I loved this backstage segment, mostly because of Asuka and Kairi.
Yeah, this is the most entertaining Asuka's maybe ever been. I am just glued to the screen to see just what she's going to do. It's fascinating. I'm really enjoying it.
So we had Vaquer against Sane. Kairi wanted to shake Stephanie's hand early in the match. That led Asuka to growl her name to prevent any niceties in the match. Vaquer dropped 2 knees on Sane's chest while on the apron, and then much later got her set up for SVB, only for Kairi to escape with a running blockbuster and later counter with a really nice DDT. Sane hit a hanging double stomp and 2 cutlass back fists, but Vaquer caught her leg in the corner on a dragon screw, splashed both Kabuki Warriors outside. She capitalized with Devil's Kiss and a remixed SVB, a double underhook code breaker for the win. Infuriated, Asuka tried to confront Stephanie after the bell. Io ran out to get between them. Asuka screamed in her face. Fans chanted for Rhea Ripley, who again only showed up backstage earlier, basically telling Vaquer she would be coming after the winner of the match one way or another. Io and Stephanie ultimately shook hands, talked some trash, and that was it. Asuka continued yelling at Io backstage later, with Kairi physically holding her back. Sky reiterated she needs to win on her own, just like Asuka once did, but she continued yelling in Japanese, seemingly saying fine, fine, fine at the end. Now, there were occasions Monday night where I was bothered that matches were not given enough time. If those were sacrificed for this one, then I accept their sacrifice. Vaquer badly needed a showcase after not having wrestled since July 28th. The crowd was hot for her eventually, but it was somewhat tepid at the beginning. Fans needed a reminder. Kairi was the perfect foil and seller for Stephanie as she reasserted her greatness and reestablished herself before not only a major title match, but a legitimate match of the year contender with Io. Kairi is also doing incredible work selling Asuka's insanity week to week. She's sneakily the key to this whole story. 4 stars A- for the match. Great work from Asuka, both ringside and after the bell. Io was the bow that tied the package together, and Vaquer finally fixed her finisher.
Thank you.
The SVB backbreaker was terrible. The SVB codebreaker, it may not be my favorite finisher. It is light years better by comparison. No idea what took them so long. Better late than never. I've only been talking about this for 14 months. It's really tough to ask for more from this extended Joshi universe that's currently being booked on Raw. It's been phenomenal from a creative standpoint, elevating every single person involved week after week. Asuka individually feels stronger and more important than she has in years. That means a lot to me. And going into this match, we had a story that really hadn't been told that much between Io and Stephanie, and still doesn't really exist that much, but we have a much greater, longer, deeper story on the back end with Io, Asuka, and everyone else surrounding the women's championship.
All four of them in this have been great. And Kairi Sane, like you said, she's really kind of found herself the last month or so, because she came back and just kind of wasn't doing much. Some people got injured in matches she was involved in, some of it not really her fault. And then, like, this story, she has kind of figured out a character and it's working. And I'm glad we kind of got this Io Stephanie thing kind of figured out after all that kind of weird stopping and starting and Naomi stuff. So I'm really excited for this. They've put time into this, to which not only do I care about the match, but I care about the story outside the match. And this and the tag team match, they've both done a very good job with that.
Yeah. I mentioned that Vaquer has not wrestled since July 28th, starting with Raw on Monday. She will wrestle 3 matches in 6 days this week. There's knocking the rust off, and then there's chiseling it off with a jackhammer. This seems to be the latter. I'd be a little wary of like her wrestling so frequently in such a short period of time after not wrestling. But look, they know better than I do. They're professionals. They know their physical limitations and what they need to do to return to action, just like football players and their trainers know. And I just don't. But for me, it is a little surprising that they're having her wrestle 3 different matches in 1 week.
I'm not surprised at this, and I'll explain it when we get to our picks.
Fair enough. So look, WWE, it often gives away its next booking by having people confront one another backstage, in the ring, around the ring, immediately before one of them becomes champion.
Yes.
And if that is the case, then we saw that backstage with Ripley confronting Vaquer. But as much as I lend credence, let's say, to that theory, I look at the facts of the situation, and the fact is Naomi was supposed to leave Clash in Paris, still the women's champion, without Io or Vaquer winning the title. In that case, Vaquer, because she was, of course, the number 1 contender. Naomi was going to fight Io on TV prior to that and probably beat Io, most likely due to Asuka involvement one way or another. So I don't think I can fully buy into the idea that just because Ripley confronted Vaquer, that means that Stephanie's going to win the title and Rhea is going to be her next challenger. That said, you do need to remember that the next show is Crown Jewel in Australia, and Rhea Ripley is almost certainly going to be heavily featured on that program. In terms of a prediction for this match, the crowd remains massively behind Io, and that is amazing to see. So does WWE stick with the hot hand to a degree, put the strap back on someone who is massively over, who has been engaged in a long-term storyline with Rhea Ripley, the type of match that could, I don't want to say sell out that stadium, but sell extremely well because it's a rematch of arguably the WWE match of the year to this point? Or do you put it on Vaquer, who was super over, but has been cooled off significantly and is not the level of talent yet in terms of the WWE fan base that Io Sky is? So I believe Io is going to walk out of here with the women's championship, and she's probably going to have Asuka's help doing it. Asuka comes down. Io doesn't realize she's down. She maybe doesn't even realize that she factors into what happens, but she takes advantage of the opportunity that Asuka creates, finds out after the fact. That creates friction between them, and you go on from there. You get Io and Rhea at Crown Jewel. Maybe there's further Asuka involvement, and that is when you see a significant split between the sides. And while ideally you would want Ripley in a singles title match on that show because it is her home country, even if it's not, of course, her home city, what I have long believed would be the match for Crown Jewel is actually Rhea teaming with Io against Asuka and Kairi, the Kabuki Warriors. So I don't know if they're going to go in that direction, but it would make sense that Sky is champion, Ripley teams with her, rather than them put that huge match, them going one-on-one when Ripley eventually is going to beat her and win the title. You got to save that for a bigger show. That's a WrestleMania match. That's not something you put on Crown Jewel. So as far as I'm concerned, the two options are for Vicaire to win the title, which would be a shocker, and then go ahead and just straight up defend against Ripley and maybe Rhea wins. You know, it's in Australia after all. Or what I do believe is the most likely booking is that Io comes out of here as champion, ends up teaming with Rhea against the Kabuki Warriors. You get that at Crown Jewel, and that brings us into whatever the women's War Games match is going to be for Survivor Series, because I cannot imagine that coming from the SmackDown side of the coin.
So like that all makes sense. And I think the Perth thing is fair. Although, you know, Rhea can be in a title match and can lose that match. She had her big Perth moment already. You don't need to give her another crown.
I'm not suggesting she would win the title there. In fact,
right.
I don't think she should, to be
right. Which is a way, if you were to start off Stephanie Vicaire's championship run with a win over Io Sky and a win over Rhea Ripley, that'd be a pretty darn way to establish somebody as your next big thing.
Amazing.
And I go back to, I think the reason we're getting so many Stephanie Vicaire matches in this short period is like, oh, we need to remind people who she is and what she does and what they're supposed to cheer for and what they're supposed to expect when there's a Stephanie Vicaire match, because we don't remember that. Mm-hmm. I don't remember that. Mm-hmm. And so I think you establish her again, remind people who she is. She wins the match. Maybe it's Rhea Ripley, move on. I don't know. But I'm going with Stephanie Vicaire winning it here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair prediction. I really do strongly feel it's going to be Io, but I mean, it would be something if they have Vicaire win. In your, prediction here, does she win completely clean, or does Asuka factor in?
Asuka factors in, and we go off into an Io Asuka type of thing.
I actually wonder if Asuka and Rhea Ripley factor in.
Maybe, but like Asuka versus Io in Australia would be a heck of a thing to do too.
I mean, you got to do Asuka Io at WrestleMania. I would. I don't know if they can stretch it until that. At least Royal Rumble. Oh man,
I mean, yes.
I don't want that match. Like, I don't want that match at the Royal Rumble. I forgot where it's located.
That too.
Yeah, I don't want them dressed head to toe like that for the match between them. But that to me is a stadium show match. I mean, maybe Survivor Series you do that match.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Or West you have them involved in women's War Games, which would play with the way this women's division is being booked right now. And that's the other point I wanted to make before we move on to the next match. I legitimately believe, Chris, what's going on with Becky Lynch, Bayley, Lyra Valkyria, the women here, AJ Lee obviously is involved. They brought Nikki Bella back, who is at least star power. This is the best the WWE main roster women's division has ever been booked at one time. And it's somehow all happening exclusively on Raw because SmackDown is an absolute shit show. And that's, by the way, with Ripley not being a featured player right now. She's been a background character for the last month. And there are 3 different deep women's storylines ongoing right now with others that you can easily break off sooner than later. I'm really impressed with the way they're all being booked.
I agree.
Now, this is one of the matches that you thought, or you were at the beginning, you said most matches on this card don't have storyline build. This was among them, I assume, is what you were saying?
Sort of. It's got story around it, but there's not story in the match. There's not really an Io Stephanie Vicaire story.
Yeah, there had to have been something that happened with Vicaire where they just weren't able to build this, because obviously Naomi getting pregnant and not being able to do the title match, it threw everything into chaos. But they still didn't do any. Like, Stephanie could have been wrestling on TV if she was healthy and everything was going fine for this entire period of time. So there had to have been a reason why they didn't do that. So I do believe that the Stephanie and Io of it is lacking, no question. but there's so much happening around Io that there is a storyline going into this match. So when I said, the majority don't really have it, I kind of was wrong. The majority do, because I'm counting this as significant storyline build. The problem is it just involves everyone except one of the two challengers in the match.
Yes. Yep.
All right, let's move to, I don't even know where this is going to be on the card. I assume the middle point. WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes defending against Drew McIntyre. You may say, Silver King, what? How the hell did we get here? Well, we're going to tell you right now. Randy Orton fought McIntyre on SmackDown. This main evented the show without any additional build over the prior 105 minutes. Drew reversed the backdrop onto the announce table before taking out Randy's knee ringside. Orton came back with a power slam and 2 table backdrops, only to roll out of the ring after being caught with a Claymore. As McIntyre made his way back into the ring, Orton caught him with an RKO, and Drew fell off the apron outside. He wound up basically with a bindi, like right between his eyebrows, hitting McIntyre with the draping DDT as he came back inside the ring. Orton set up for the punt kick, but the referee literally got in his way and stopped him. Orton moved him out of the way, went for the kick, but McIntyre shoved Orton near the referee, caught him with a Claymore, got the win, and then he tried to set up for the Claymore into the announce table the same way he took out Cody Rhodes. So, of course, Cody returned, made the save, hit a great Cody cutter, maybe his best one ever, and he stood tall at the end of the show. He grabbed the mic literally as the credits were already rolling, saying the champ is back and challenging for Wrestlepalooza 1 second before a USA Network cutout. In terms of the match, it was quality bell to bell. Nothing that special. The finish fakeouts were done to show it was basically 50-50, and obviously Orton was protected through the referee distraction and McIntyre's heel antics. That left something to be desired when you're trying to establish a number one contender. I don't see how, if you're Orton, you can now forget about that in kayfabe. He's got to want another shot at Drew sooner than later. Switching now from kayfabe to reality, McIntyre seriously pissed Orton off during this match. There was one point where Drew body slammed Randy and he completely misjudged the distance from the ropes. Orton's legs hit the ropes, led to a real nasty bump, and immediately he started no-selling some of Drew's offense. And when he set up for the punt kick at the end of the match, he literally yelled to the camera something like, "Not in 35 years in this business has anyone slammed me into the ropes." Now, they're both veterans, so I presume they worked it out afterward backstage because people make mistakes. But yeah, Chris, in terms of the match, that was, pretty dangerous. And while it was solid bell to bell, I just kept thinking to myself, I wish these guys had 20 minutes and I wish this was on WrestlePalooza.
Yeah, I mean, this is a WrestleMania match type of thing between these two. So, yes, this should have been on WrestleMania, but Cody Rhodes was going to have to be on there in some way. Ultimately, getting McIntyre pinning Orton 1, 2, 3 was good to have. You had to have that to set up Drew Cody. You had to give him a win over Randy freaking Orton. So that was needed. It's an impactful victory. Again, Randy can take a loss. He's fine. We always say this. So even with the shenanigans and all that type of stuff, it's the biggest win Drew has had in a very, very long time. Like just offhand, like maybe one of the CM Punk ones, but he's been kind of just been punked every no pun intended, since this most recent kind of year he's had. So this was big for him.
It was. And look, Cody's save was well done. It sucks that it got rushed. I have no idea why they didn't set aside extra time in the show for him to speak or for them to go back and forth. I'm not surprised the match got rushed onto WrestlePalooza. We spoke about the card being thin and many key titles not being defended, but I am really struggling to understand why this was not saved for Crown Jewel with Drew and Randy on WrestlePalooza. Cody could have returned and made his save there, which would have been a real big moment for an already big show. Plus, McIntyre and Orton, as you just said, would have been plenty strong enough to actually be on the card. Now, it's all going to depend what gets booked at WrestlePalooza and then next month for Crown Jewel before I determine whether this was the right move or not. But I truly believe you could have taken this match, added 10 minutes, and just put it right at WrestlePalooza with Cody returning, and everyone would have been just as happy.
My guess is because it's your first ESPN show, you don't want to have a show without both of your men's world championships on the line. And they had said when they announced the show that Cody Rhodes would be there. And Triple H said last week that Cody Rhodes will be there.
Mm-hmm.
But even coming out of this segment on SmackDown, I wasn't totally sure it was booked. Like, they didn't tell us the match was happening on screen that I saw until Raw. So that's another thing that makes me feel like it might have been a bit rushed.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there is technically plenty of story here. We know why Drew and Cody are feuding. We know how Randy was involved. But Cody's been off television for like 4 to 5 weeks. And now he comes back, and in 8 days, he's going to have a title match at WrestlePalooza. It's rushed. It just is. And again, that's why we get into like this gray area of like, well, there isn't really any story for the build. I feel like this actually has less story than the Women's World Championship.
Oh, 100%. Totally.
Yeah. Even though they've kind of told it and they did set it up. But I'm just not really into this, and I should be, because I love McIntyre as a challenger. I want him to be the champion. Chris, Drew McIntyre should win this match, and Rhodes should not win the title back until Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble. That's just facts. Now, whether Drew will win is another question altogether. But do you at least agree with the general idea that McIntyre beating Rhodes, it would elevate him significantly? It would make SmackDown as a whole and this championship picture a lot more interesting than it currently is. And it would give something for Cody to legitimately chase over these months where if he's just the champion this entire time, what exactly is he doing?
Correct. And we have felt that for a while, that Drew should have won this along the way. And ultimately, like, my initial thought is Cody's winning. They rushed this. There's not much of a story yet.
Mm-hmm.
You want Cody on ESPN doing all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. So Cody is my pick for this. However, I also wouldn't rule out the possibility that we get a surprise McIntyre win to make an impact on ESPN.
We do this to ourselves every time, dude. Every time. Think about AJ Styles is going to beat him. Drew McIntyre is going to be like, we did this every single premium live event last year. And he never lost.
There weren't, I'm trying to remember the first show on Netflix. Like, there was a title change or two on there, but the main event was Punk Rollins.
Right.
We didn't have like a men's world. I think we might have had a women's something tag team. I don't know. We had 1 or 2 title changes on that first Netflix show earlier this year. So like I not just because now's the time that Cody loses, it's a great story. AJ had a great story to win. Other people had great stories to beat Cody.
Mm-hmm.
This I'm saying purely for you give ESPN something big to talk about on their first show type of thing.
Sure. Yeah, on that
I could see it.
On that Netflix card, Ripley ended her feud with Liv Morgan and won the championship.
That's it.
And the match was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't what we all hoped it would be, but it was really solid, the entire way.
I'm just saying they give you something impactful. The thing I always talk about when I grade shows, was there an impactful, meaningful thing that happened on the show?
Right.
And you would think on the first ESPN show, they're going to try to do that.
Yeah, I would think so. And that's why I'm going to say that Drew McIntyre is not going to win the match here. And Cody Rhodes is actually going to walk out with the championship, because they should do that. I just don't feel like they're going to. So my thought legit is Cody wins here. It's his big return match. You want a big babyface pop on the show. McIntyre attacks him after the bell. Pretty devastatingly. They wind up rematching at Crown Jewel. And I want to say that McIntyre then wins the show in the rematch at Crown Jewel.
That's a dumb place for him to win, though.
Why?
Crown Jewel in Australia?
Yeah, why? Who cares?
That's where Cody Rhodes goes down. The other thing I'll say,
it's a dude, it's a stadium show. I mean,
on every other show is a stadium show.
I know, but it's still a big show.
I would say another thing that would put me in the favor of Cody winning here as well is thinking this will not be the main event of the card. And
that's also
going to
true.
have,
yes.
If you're going to have Cody drop the belt, you think it's going to come in the main event.
And that's a fantastic point. You would want that to be the final match on the show, because either positive or negative. In this case, it would be negative because the heel would be winning. You want that moment to radiate. And oh my God, can't believe Cody got defeated. What's going to happen next Friday on SmackDown? Doing that in the middle of the show for the WWE Championship, it just doesn't necessarily seem like something they would do. But I don't understand your hesitancy to put a rematch for this on Crown Jewel. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Put it there. No, that makes sense. I'm just saying Drew McIntyre winning it there.
Just because it's not Europe? Like, who cares?
That show happens at like 3 a.m. in America.
Yeah.
It's just a really weird time to have Cody drop the belt.
I
He only dropped the belt to John Cena at WrestleMania.
I suppose,
Like, you're
but
going to make an impact.
you want people to watch, right? So they're going to watch the replay one way or another. They're going to be more inclined to do so. You are right. You want that live. I mean, that's a moment you want. Like, not only do you want it live, because the show will be live, but you want it live at a time period where everyone can talk about it, tweet about it. It gets around. You don't want a major title change happening on that show. And people are like, oh, wow, McIntyre won? All right, cool. I'll see the highlights on Raw. Like,
Right.
You don't want that. So there's some credence to what you're saying. And maybe it will be McIntyre.
It's
winning
more
there.
likely he wins here than if they did a match at Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
We're fantasy, but we're booking a show out from now. I do
You
think
need
it's
to,
very
though.
possible he wins here.
You have to book a show out because that informs what you think is going to happen on this show. The other thing is, like, where does it all go going forward too? Because, like, who is going to have the title and who is then going to be challenging for the title at WrestleMania? My thought, legit, is McIntyre takes the title into WrestleMania and Sami Zayn challenges him. But what if you do Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton instead? Right? Like, is Sami and this whole world title pursuit, are they booking that for this WrestleMania? So that way he can win the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia and then main event this WrestleMania? Or are they booking it for next WrestleMania, a Presselmania, so that Sami can actually win the championship in Saudi Arabia? And I don't have the answer to that.
Possible they changed their plans.
Maybe they did.
when they booked a Saudi Arabia WrestleMania, gave Sami the U.S. title and said, "All right, we're going to put that Sami Zayn won't win the world title thing on the back burner."
Right. Maybe Sami like comes in second in the men's Royal Rumble. And then next year he's the one who wins it. Main event's WrestleMania, and that's your night 2 main event. Cody Rhodes against Sami Zayn, or maybe a heel, hopefully, against Sami Zayn in that spot.
Heel Cody.
And that is how you end night 2 of a WrestleMania over there. So it's going to be super interesting to see where this goes. But as much as I want McIntyre to win, I believe he should win. It would be the best booking decision that SmackDown could do. I have Cody walking out of here as the champion, and you do as well. We still have 2 matches to discuss, and we spent a lot of time on that one. AJ Lee and CM Punk against Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. The Vision, all 4 of them, entered Raw together in the cold open. My immediate thought, and we briefly discussed this earlier, Chris, was how great all 4 of them looked together as a complete faction, particularly without Heyman. Did you have a similar feeling watching all of them together in the cold open?
Yes. And that's what I was talking about before. Like, you don't want too many people. It helps everybody shine a little bit more.
It does. I agree. So Rollins and Lynch opened hour 2 dressed identically in black leather, looking like $1 million, by the way. Seth has an all black version of his emblem still in a choker chain, almost as if he's personally trying to piss me off because it looks so bad together.
It's getting worse.
It really is. He brought it down to a regular necklace and it looked great. And I praised him for it. And now it's just right back up right away. Rollins put over his wife, but before Becky could really start talking shit, the faces entered to AJ's music alone, wearing matching gear. No, Punk was not in Daisy Dukes. They both wore jeans. He called himself AJ's husband, which got chanted, as did her name, loud. Punk tried to wedge drive a married couple, suggesting their egos were so large they would struggle in the ring together. There was a lot of heat on the heels. Rollins gave Punk credit, saying that AJ was the best decision he ever made in his personal life, whereas bringing her back to WWE was a mistake that would haunt him forever. AJ said Seth's the reason she's back, using his wife as a human shield. Bex reminded that Punk only cares about himself, the World Heavyweight Championship, and his wife, except he put her in position to be hurt physically given her chronic neck issues. Then she asked Punk how it's going to feel as a man who got in a blood feud over a bracelet with AJ's name on it. When she pummels AJ and re-injures her, proving she's a liability and it's all Punk's fault. AJ had a couple really funny lines as the crowd kept chanting for her. Punk absolutely loved. He had a shit-eating grin on his face the entire time. Rollins kept getting pissed off. AJ reminded she can make sudden decisions. She can be erratic. She's a Puerto Rican from New York. She got a Boricua chant in Springfield, Massachusetts, of all places, before stating Seth can't even handle her. Rollins said maybe not, but he knows Punk, who has a nasty habit of leaving when things let him down, suggesting he could leave AJ too if she loses. Rollins then repeated Punk's line from SmackDown about not putting his hands on a lady, but having someone who will, except Lynch didn't hop to it. And they got into an argument with Becky yelling that he got them into it. All a ruse for Punk to chase Rollins. That allowed Lynch to catch Lee blind with manhandle slam and an open hand slap twice to Punk across the face. The heels then made out on the ramp as Punk basically had steam coming from his ears. Now, was this the weakest and sloppiest of the 4 segments involving them? Absolutely. Was it still the best part of Raw on Monday night? For me, it was. They leaned more into the comedy, which is fine because all 4 of them can actually do it, as was proven here. The truth is, they really had nowhere to go but down, from the initial antagonizing, AJ's return, and then her promo segment, stacking greatness on top of greatness for 3 straight shows. But this still did the job as the go home to WrestlePalooza. The crowd was on fire for all 4 of them, particularly AJ, who got the best of Becky on the mic, which was important, and Lynch obviously allowed that to happen. AJ, by the way, bumped her ass off on the manhandle slam. Her first live bump in 10 years, and she went deep into her bag on it. She still knows how to sell, at least. We'll see if she can go in the ring on Saturday. Ultimately, the heels got to stand tall on the go home, both in the physical and mental aspect of the feud. And while the segment overall could have been a little bit cleaner and sharper, it was nevertheless immensely effective building the match, laid out everyone's motivations, and it set the stage for what's going to come next, both on Saturday and individually with the women and the men coming out of WrestlePalooza.
So I loved, like they mentioned it, but I loved how Rollins comes out first and then Becky comes out, and they basically both walk to the ring with Becky's music.
Mm-hmm.
And then Punk doesn't even play his music. They just both straight come out to AJ's music. So I like that both of them did that. That was a very cool and nice thing for them to do. Becky Lynch did not shout out local Springfield media this time around. She just stuck with, I think, ESPN and Sports Illustrated. So that streak has ended.
I want to interrupt you though. I love how like the fans started booing when she started saying it, like knowing what was coming. Like she's now primed them perfectly, and she waited for the boos. And she's like, it's not just me saying that. Sports Illustrated is saying that. ESPN is saying that. I loved the way she worked them. It was awesome.
Yeah. The crowd was a little too like chanty in this.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the line when Rollins says Punk leaves things when they let him down and he's going to leave you, that didn't get the reaction I think it should have. Because it was a really good line and a really good theme that follows everything Rollins has ever said. But the crowd was like kind of mid-chant on something because they were continuing to chant. Seth just started talking over them because he had to get going on this promo. And so I don't think that landed as well as it should have. Not his fault at all. Just kind of a weird situation there with the crowd. I also love heels faking a bickering between them to sucker in the baby faces is one of my favorite just heel things that can be done. And that's what that felt like here. Good finish, good setup, good segment all around.
And usually they just like laugh about it, but in this case they made out with each other, which just kind of like added, like these are real pieces of shit that they're like getting off almost on doing this to them, right? So
I know.
They actually absolutely nailed that. I thought Becky and Seth, they continue to show that in these heel roles, actually working together at a time and in a storyline where they want to work together, they play off each other incredibly well.
I think like you can feel it when this is going on. The reason that husband-wife stuff doesn't go together well. Like you can see it and realize like there's so many ways I can see this doesn't feel right, but it does feel right. because they're four of the best talkers to do this.
Yep.
And AJ being back is just new. So that's still like a new shiny thing. It doesn't feel as, I don't want to say contrived, but like Edge and Beth Phoenix and Miz and Maurice. It was very much like, we're doing the husband and wife thing.
Right.
And it could be very easy for this to feel like that, but it doesn't. And that's a credit to all of them.
Well, they also made it a natural storyline because Becky is strong enough as an individual that you can buy her not like fighting Punk and beating him in a match, but you can buy her antagonizing him to the way that she did, to the level that she did, slapping the shit out of him, pushing him around. And Punk then needs to figure out, well, what the hell am I going to do to combat this? Because it's one thing for me to deal with Rollins, but now I got to deal with this person who's legit, like someone that is actually going to be a problem, a thorn in my side. Oh, wait, I have a legendary wrestling wife too, and I can bring her in. So the storyline felt realistic. And because the storyline's realistic, it doesn't feel forced that these four are working together, or these pairs are working together 2 and 2. And to your point, AJ coming back, super fresh. And it would have worked without that, like in terms of if AJ had been with the company and wrestling separately, but that just takes it over the top from something that would otherwise be great to something that is frankly incredible. And as far as I'm concerned, is my main event of the show. It's the best built, and it's the most exciting match on the card by margin. And quickly, before we go to a match prediction here, you made a fantastic point a moment ago. As much as I loved the Springfield crowd on Monday night, I thought they did a great job all show. They actively impaired this segment because there was a lot of storytelling and individual lines that needed to land, and their constant, incessant chants, I don't want to say trying to get themselves over, but trying to actively participate in the segment beyond what was necessary. It hurt how some of those lines landed and how many people actually comprehended the new parts of the story that were being added to it. So we explained them because I was listening and paying attention. But if you were just watching and enjoying, it's very possible you missed the fact that Punk was trying to wedge drive them. And they came back basically saying, well, you leave things when they get tough. So if AJ loses this match, are you going to leave her as well? And that was just a small portion of what they tried to add to this storyline here. So the first 3 segments were great. Like I said, it had nowhere to go but down, and this one did take a step down. But if this was performed under ideal situations, maybe I wouldn't have said that at all, because there were a lot of great lines and a lot of great story points here.
Yeah, this is obviously by far the best built thing on the show. It's the thing I'm most looking forward to. And like just every step of this has been great. Like you mentioned like Punk Rollins at WrestleMania, and like part of me is like, I'm kind of done with Punk Rollins. It's been so long, but they continue to find ways to make it feel fresh, and this more than any other. Bringing them both in, not only just bringing their wives in, but bringing Becky freaking Lynch and AJ freaking Lee into this, just like takes it up a whole other level. So it's been great.
It's enhanced their storyline, brought AJ Lee back, and it's enhanced the vision. So it's a rising tide lifting all boats, literally. And that is why, really, if it wasn't John Cena and Brock Lesnar, as far as I'm concerned, this should be main eventing the show. But it's not. It'll probably be the co-main or the mid-show main event, whatever the case might be. Chris, in terms of a prediction, I mean, you got to have CM Punk and AJ Lee win, right? Like, you have AJ pin Becky. You start an Intercontinental Championship feud coming on the back end of that. Punk gets a leg up on Rollins after Rollins has gotten so many on him. And you move on from there. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Probably what's going to happen. I could see the other thing happening. Like, this is not that Rollins and Becky winning would kind of end their feud or anything, but like, this is so interesting. Like, do you run it back, or do you just have the faces win and then go into the singles feuds and keep them together? I don't know. I'm going to go Punk AJ as well. I think it's a classic, like, baby faces win, but you're going to have one of your champions get pinned in this. And Becky's probably the more logical one to get pinned. So That's what I'm going to predict. But I wouldn't be surprised if the heels won.
With Rollins pinning Punk?
Yeah. Again. No, I
Again?
guess he pinned Roman at WrestleMania, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's pinned Punk too. I mean, and he's cost Punk so many times. Yeah, I think it has to be AJ over Becky, especially because like she is so crazy over since her return, and that is going to generate the biggest pop will be AJ hitting her finisher and pinning Becky. If they can do that, that will be the best way to end the match.
What is her finisher other than that Black Widow submission?
You're putting me on the effing spot here, man. I mean, I haven't watched her wrestle in 10 years. I need to like go through the mental Rolodex to try to figure out what the hell it is. Well, the Black Widow submission was her primary. She's used a DDT before, a Shining Wizard. She also does like, a standing sliced bread almost. It had a name. It was like Shiranui, or I forgot the name that they actually used for it at the time, but she basically looks like she's going to get backdropped by her opponent, but she flips over her and lands almost like an inverted DDT. It's pretty much a variation of a sliced bread.
I wonder if like in the pre-show or something, they'll try to remind us like of her moveset just to like condition fans to know what
was some of it in that video package that you loved? I'm trying to remember.
I don't think so. That was mostly just speaking in promos, although I'd have to go back and watch it. It could be.
I'd like to see some, highlights of her, even if it's just on the Countdown show. Just kind of remind us what AJ Lee is like in the ring. I'm extremely curious, by the way, to see how she's going to wrestle. She looked great when she guested on Heels. Now that's obviously a taped dramatic show, so they could do a million takes and so on. But I believe the talk coming out of the taping of Heels was like she hadn't lost a step in the ring, looked great, had a great time doing it. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how well she does in the ring and how well both teams work together. I really hope this is a situation where we have like tag team moves. Like I want to see the husbands and wives help each other, right? And do some cool stuff together. So the story of this match is going to be just as interesting as the wrestling. And I don't believe it'll be the match of the night, but I wouldn't be shocked if we come out of the show talking about this more than any other match on the entire card.
Agree.
Let's move to the actual main event for better or worse. John Cena against Brock Lesnar. Lesnar opened SmackDown getting "You suck" chants before Ron Killings interrupted fully as R-Truth, even wrapping his entrance and wearing jorts like Cena. I figured Lesnar was just going to F5 him, and then we'd actually get a segment of Brock talking. Then I thought Truth was going to talk some shit, but when he got in Brock's face, he said, "Welcome back," and then he got cut off. Lesnar asked his name. He said R-Truth, and then Ron Cena. Truth talked about Cena being a changed guy, making a kid cry, saying he won't run from the Priest, but feed on him. There was comedy mixed through this. Lesnar asked if he was missing a tooth. Then he F5'd Truth and literally split his jeans on the backside doing it. Huge smile on his face, danced around, showed off the split jeans to the camera, and then he left. I forgot to mention that Lesnar kept saying, "I'm here for Cena. Where's Cena?" after he literally interrupted the match last week on what was clearly promoted as Cena's final SmackDown ever. Like, bro, what the F was this? Seriously, what the F was this? Were there fun moments between them? Sure. They were pretty funny together, all things considered. But we've seen that before. What have we been talking about for the last month? Cena and Lesnar are going to main event the first WWE PLE on ESPN. And there has literally been zero storyline development for this match. Lesnar F5'd Cena at SummerSlam. Then he F5'd him on SmackDown, left the ring, went to commercial, somehow couldn't get through gorilla position fast enough. When he finally does, he makes the challenge for WrestlePalooza. And now he's in a segment involving Truth with a mic in his hand. And he doesn't talk about why he attacked or why he wants the match. Really? Like, Truth couldn't have come out after he said some shit? And don't even get me started on Killings fully reverting back to Truth. WWE started something interesting when they brought him back due to the fan protest, But now he's not only shed the interesting aspect of being Killings, he's back to acting a fool or otherwise not being on TV. I get that WWE didn't have a big role for him, which is why he got released in the first place, but his relaunch actually had promise. Instead, it's just flown off the side of a mountain. The whole Killings gimmick easily could have been used in this segment. Who are you? R-Truth. Are you? Or are you thinking you're John Cena? I thought you were Killings. Like, Lesnar could have actually done something here. This took a good 15 minutes to open the show, the goal being to promote this huge debut on ESPN. They didn't even mention the match in the segment or say the name of the event. They got lost 2 to 3 times while speaking. Lesnar, ripping his pants, saved it from being an absolute disaster. But then he stood there acting like a babyface at the end, dancing around and shit. And all this time was spent without anything actually being accomplished. So what the hell was this shit? I'll tell you what it was.
0.0.
0.0, Mr. Blutarski.
Mark it 0.
It was 0.
First on the R-Truth thing, do you think he regrets cutting his hair?
No, he had to cut his hair, man. He was, it was going.
I mean, but it looks worse now.
I don't think it looks worse. I think it looks better. I got to be honest.
Like, I knew there was never going to be anything for R-Truth. Whatever. Is what it is. But you know the reason why they're not having Brock Lesnar really stand in front of a microphone and talk for a prolonged period of time in front of the crowd. It's because they're worried about what the crowd might say.
They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything.
They're not going to, but that's the reason.
No.
They're not going to open up any possibility for that to happen. This has been a complete and absolute waste of time. Brock probably got a nice, cool $1 million to show up and rip his pants and do nothing and come out of the segment looking like a freaking babyface, like you said. Just a real mess of everything. I did not care about this. I care about this less and less with every single appearance. This is just an absolute waste of a final John Cena appearance, a waste of a main event with a card that has multiple other things that should be in the spot. I hate this. I hate this. Stop with the crap.
That is one big pile of shit.
I hate this. I hate this crap. Stop. Stop with the crap.
If they were really worried about the crowd revolting or whatever, they could have sent a camera up to Brock's ranch in Saskatchewan or wherever his ass lives right now and done a thing where he's like raking hay or breaking wood or doing any other beast shit that he does, filleting a cow, and had him talk shit about Cena. You came back, you did this, you did that, you're pathetic. I took you out before, I'm going to send you to Suplex City again. Make this guy look like a badass. Like, there's a million creative things they could have done to sell this match without Brock having to cut a live promo in front of a crowd. That's not why they didn't do it. They didn't do it because this entire Cena run has, I don't want to say the whole thing's been botched. The vast majority of it, 75% of Cena's return has been botched, and it is pretty disgraceful booking from WWE. And it's crazy too, because people, Chris, are extrapolating it, right? They're saying, well, Cena's not doing well with the final run. He's not being booked well. So therefore, WWE creative is in the dumps. It's terrible. Triple H is a terrible booker. You can't have that opinion and simultaneously praise what he's doing with the women and how they reestablish the tag team division on SmackDown and some of the other really positive stuff they're doing with CM Punk, AJ Lee, Becky Lynch, and Seth Rollins. Many other great story points this year. Naomi's cash in, the Naomi and Jade feud. They've done incredible creative work in WWE this year, okay? But it's being overshadowed by the utter failure to book John Cena's final year properly. There have been individual bright moments. Some of the stuff he did at the Royal Rumble, the heel turn at Elimination Chamber, definitely a couple of the promos, the stuff with CM Punk. There have been super, super bright spots. But for this not to have been perfectly planned from start to finish with the appropriate opponents, it is an utter shock. I said it before, I think last week, Chris. The fact that Brock Lesnar is back on television when they did not need him to be on its own is ridiculous. The fact that they have booked it so poorly that I care about it less than a Logan Paul feud that happened 1 month ago, I can't even fathom how that's the case.
It doesn't mean all WWE creative sucks, but it is the quintessential example of when the creative gets bad.
Yes.
Which is all that matters is the moment. We want the moment that people will talk about on social media, and that's ultimately all that really matters. Do we get that? And almost everything about this Cena run has been, we will give you that and nothing else. There has been no through line to any of this. It feels like half of it was done for the sake of a Netflix documentary, and now we have this garbage. Cena cuts. We'll talk about what Cena says on Raw, but he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything of note. So I'll just say, like, they missed an opportunity on both ends to tell the story. Like, Cena hinted at it.
He hinted at it. Well, let's talk about it, because he did hint at it. I mean, but he didn't get there. Which is the point that you're making.
No, he hinted at it last week when he said, basically, it was him or commentary or somebody pointed out that Brock. I know what it was. It was the video package. They talk about Brock going away after WrestleMania 20. WrestleMania 20 also being the show where John Cena won his first singles championship. The story to tell here is Brock Lesnar saying, why do you get a farewell tour? You're only where you are because I left. I made that spot for you. You owe all of your success to me.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to show you that once and for all and put you out of your misery and put you to sleep. Like, that's the story to tell.
You just said more.
Told it.
You just said more in one sentence than either of them did to build this match in the entire feud.
Like, they've done nothing except for show you that same package a couple of times of them and OVW. Like, that's it.
Well, I will say, because I was going to get to that next. Tessitore voiced like that 5-minute retrospective on Cena Lesnar,
which was good.
And it was really good. Like, now, unfortunately, it was the entire build. Neither cut a promo, no storyline other than they fought a bunch of times before. But that package, it did a lot of heavy lifting when it really shouldn't have needed to do that, right? Like, and that's really what you and I are getting at. Now, coming out of SmackDown, the only way I can conjure Friday's segment playing a role in Saturday's match is if Truth runs out to help Cena, like giving him the win, excusing the loss somehow for Lesnar. But is that really the booking you want Cena getting in the final, what do you say, 6 dates of his career? And that's what it makes this even more infuriating, Chris, because there's 4 months left, but he only has 6 dates remaining. One of them, I presume, being the match with Lesnar. So 5 dates after that, and he's at least going to be on 2 shows, which means 3 more television appearances to build 2 matches. Oh, excuse me, and Saturday night's main event. So he has 3 matches left. He's going to be on 2 television shows, and you wasted 4 of them or whatever on Lesnar and 4 before that on Logan Paul. Like, that's why we're angry about this. It's frankly ridiculous.
Now we can talk about what he said on Raw.
Yeah, now we can talk about Raw. So Cena opened Raw getting a hero's welcome. I hadn't put 2 and 2 together that they were in Springfield, Massachusetts, where he went to college, but the small venue made sense in that context. Really cool of WWE to go there, by the way. Cena played to the local crowd, shouting out his teammates, friends, and family before focusing on Lesnar. Fans chanted "F you, Lesnar," and then "whoop his ass," and then "thank you, Cena," explaining that the support of the fans, Cena said, is why he didn't use his stroke to get out of the match, because he is the last real champion, and he always fights his battles in the ring, not backstage. I mean, tell that to Nexus, but I digress. Cena said being the last real champion is not about actually holding the title, but being a role model who will leave WWE better than he found it. He said he was scared and he could fail, but he won't back down. Shout out Tom Petty. Cena then shouted out Suplex City again. Suplex City is what should have happened last week. And he also integrated a pretty awesome fan sign that said his jorts are stronger than Lesnar's jeans before hitting his signature close to the promo. Another excellent promo from Cena. It was like he batted for the cycle in the 10+ minutes that he commanded the ring. But outside of putting over Lesnar, who is probably the one person who does not need to be put over because we know he's an absolute monster, it didn't really tell the storyline. Even Cena himself could have said some of the things that you said. Like, Brock, I do recognize that I got my opportunity in this company when you left. I relish the chance to fight you one more time and prove that those 2 times I beat you in whatever year that was were no fluke. I am the last real champion, so on and so forth. Instead, he just talked about not giving up. And that's Cena, and that's okay. And the promo was great. But it just felt like another wasted appearance.
I can't believe they're leaning into last real champion for all the things that we've said on the show.
At least they explained it, though. At least they're saying that.
Yeah.
He's not saying that, Cody's a shitty champion or anything like that. They're trying to turn it. I give him a little credit on that.
But he's like, you're right that and look, there was an FU Lesnar chant from the crowd. So shout out to the Springfield crowd for that. It got muted, and Cena did a good job of kind of pulling them off of it by mentioning it to the camera. But you don't need to, not only do you not need to build up Lesnar, you also don't need to say he's invincible, because Lesnar is 3-5 since April 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 wins are against Omos, Bobby Lashley, who we also lost to, and Cody by ref's decision in a feud he lost. So we haven't even seen Lesnar be that either. And it's just what I don't get is I know he tried to kind of explain it, but who cares if he loses here? What does it matter? He's leaving anyway. What does he really need to prove here? What he needs to prove here is that Brock Lesnar blew his chance, and that Cena was always going to be the one to carry this company into the future, and Brock Lesnar wasn't that.
Yeah.
And
but they didn't set it up.
No. So what are we doing? The result of this match means nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the line.
And I don't want to say credit, but at least Cena and Logan created a storyline where there was something at stake. You felt that if Cena lost to this guy, then he really was the future of WWE, and you'd have to buy into him. And the way they booked the match, it kind of played into that too. So, it's what are we getting here? I feel like it's just going to be Suplex City, and you're going to, oh my God, Cena's going to go down the way he did previously, except he kicks out, and it's going to be finisher spam, F5,
yes.
Attitude adjustment. Maybe he wins with an STF and chokes out Lesnar, and he passes out, and that way it protects Brock. My hope upon all hopes is that we don't get truth, and that Cena wins this. I do want to see Cena beat him clean.
He already interfered in the Orton match. We can't do this again.
That's what I'm saying. I just want to see Cena choke out Lesnar. And if he does that, it's still not going to be valuable in that it does anything for Cena or that it saves the build. But that would at least be interesting. If he just hits 3 AAs after taking 7 F5s, it's a shrug. And I get the star power on ESPN. I get it. I do. But you could have built a storyline into this, and they didn't.
No, and ultimately, it's the whole thing about the run is this match isn't for us, really, kind of. It's for all the people on ESPN who are going to tune into ESPN app and find it, and that whole new audience, which I get it from a business perspective, fine. I will say, Cena's last 2 matches against Cody and Logan Paul have been very good matches.
Mm-hmm.
And Brock Lesnar, when he wants to, puts on very good matches.
Absolutely.
So, it is possible these guys, beat our expectations, which sound like they're pretty low. I'm not coming in thinking this match is going to totally suck. Frankly,
just because we say storyline sucks, if matches needed storylines to be great, then AEW would be dead in the water. It wouldn't exist as a company. I mean,
weird, you know what I mean? Weirdly, Brock has better matches sometimes against Goldberg than he does against Roman Reigns. So sometimes things just don't click. I don't know.
Brock's best matches are with undersized guys like AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan. Don't forget.
I remember Lesnar coming back in 2012 or 13 and immediately getting pinned by Cena, at Extreme Rules for getting A8 onto the stairs, I think it was. So I don't even know, so they've wrestled twice on the main roster. Is that what they said? Do we know what the record is? Because Cena won the one. Oh, and Lesnar won the other, the Suplex City. So it's 1-1. And the Suplex City wasn't a good match, but it was an interesting match.
Oh, that was very interesting at the time.
Because we didn't see it coming. So, like, I don't know what to expect out of this from a match quality standpoint, but Cena's going to win, obviously. Not, it's just, otherwise, what are we doing?
I would not say it's entirely obvious, but they've fought way more than twice on the main roster. I'm not sure what you.
I thought I heard you say twice, so maybe I just misheard you. Never forget about that point. Then.
Oh,
but
no,
there was no way the show is ending. There was no way ESPN is ending its show with Brock Lesnar as your champion, given everything else. Like,
I cannot imagine that.
Not champion, but as your winner of your main event.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like Lesnar definitely, especially at this age, is not going to be a regular player. Not that he ever was recently.
I mean,
but
Cena didn't either.
No. But what I'm saying is, you don't need him to bounce back from this in a month. He can go away.
Yeah.
He can go away until February and then come back for a WrestleMania feud. Like, you don't have to rehab him after the fact. Lesnar can come back anytime and be a dominant beast, and whoever he goes up against, that match matters, even if we don't necessarily want Lesnar in the company. So, that's the way I kind of look at it from that standpoint. Prediction. Cena wins. My hope is this is not finisher spam. I would be okay with a Suplex City. Like, you do that a shitload of times, and, that is boring. It can get boring. They have to avoid that. But I said after the Logan Paul match, I think it was, that Cena has put together a streak of matches recently that has literally, like, without exaggeration, been
banger
after
banger
after
banger.
I don't necessarily think this is going to be one, though. I think ultimately, from a bell-to-bell standpoint, it will disappoint, even if we ultimately like the finish and the result.
Here's my question. What other finishers do we think Cena breaks out in this one? Does he go for the RKO again and not get it? I don't think he's done. Does he do a Daniel Bryan running knee?
Ooh,
what
Zaiku knee? That'd be sick.
What else? He could do a Goldberg spear. Or a Roman Reigns spear.
I would say you're gonna get RKO, skull crushing finale.
Ooh, skull crushing finale would. I don't know if you do that on Brock, but that's a good one.
You can definitely do that on Brock. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
Do we get a rock bottom in there somewhere?
Oh God, heaven forbid. Match ends. Rock's music hits, and we just all fall
Skinny
back.
Rock comes out.
Skinny Rock comes out. Says John Cena, "You failed me. I want your soul." And that's how. I
probably can't do it to Brock, but a Batista bomb, maybe do it to somebody else.
Batista bomb would be really cool. That would be tough to get Brock up in, but I mean,
right.
He's been doing well, Cena. I got to give him credit too. Like, we've been shitting on the booking because the booking hasn't been great. He's acquitted himself nicely in this run. This is one of the best, like, work rate type of runs that Cena's had.
I'm sad this is the end.
Yeah. It is sad because he's doing so well from that standpoint. Yeah. You're like, he could go another year or two.
Yeah.
But it's better to leave on top.
By the way, have you watched any of Peacemaker this season?
Yes, every episode. Great.
He's doing a great job, man. He's stepped up his game. Like, he is a legit good actor. The season's been really fun, so shout out to him. He's good at everything he does.
He'll never win an Emmy or anything for that show, but I keep using the word, he's acquitted himself quite nicely as an actor through that show. He is showing that his chops go way beyond the adult comedy that he's really, I don't want to say pigeonholed himself in, because he does other stuff, but he when it comes to wrestlers as actors, oftentimes they need to find, like, what is their genre. And for Rock, it's everything. He can literally do everything. And I think you're going to see with Smashing Machine that's coming out. And I've heard incredible reviews from people that I personally know who have seen it. And I cannot wait to see it myself. I heard legit best actor nom for the Oscars for The Rock for this movie.
Well, that's the role in the, like, it's all set. That's what he's going for with the movie.
It is.
It's very obvious.
But I heard that the expectation is he will get one based on, people I know who have seen it. I think Cena has had some incredible movie roles of late. Peacemaker's his best role, without question. It has the comedy, it has the action, but there's also a dramatic, touching, emotional element to that show that he really has not been able to reach in any other role that he's had.
Totally agree. Great show.
All right. So your pick, by the way, is John Cena here?
My pick is John Cena, Chris Smith.
Pinfall or submission?
Pinfall.
All right.
I'd like it to be a submission, just personally.
Yeah.
But pinfall.
A rare situation where I'd be okay with a knockout rather than an actual tap out. Although Brock tapping out to Cena, the
No,
STF,
I do not want a knockout. That's the worst thing. That's what you do to the babyface.
I'm just saying I'd be okay with it if you have to protect Lesnar. It'd be more exciting for me to see Cena win that way to overpower this guy than, again, just hit 7 AAs and like eventually he gets the pinfall. You know, we've seen that a million times. Okay, so that wraps up our WWE Wrestlepalooza Ultimate Preview. As always, Chris, we conclude with our pre-show expectation grades. All of you listening will have an opportunity to vote, share your pre-show and post-show grades on Twitter at GettingOverCast. But here on this show, you always get the opportunity to go first. Chris, what is your expectation for the first ever WWE Wrestlepalooza?
A minus. I'll go with I always forget. What's the number that starts in A? Is it 93 starts in A?
So an A minus is a 90 through a 92, and an A is a 93 to a 96.
I will go with a 92. This otherwise would be an A expectation show just because of the card, but the storytelling is poor, and I'm going to go A minus.
Yeah, for me, the poor storytelling is for the two big men's singles matches, which unfortunately contain some of the biggest stars on the entire show and therefore makes it difficult to go in the A range on the onset, coupled with the fact that it's only a 5-match card. So you could say if there's 2 poor matches from a storyline build, but you have 5 that are super strong, then you can kind of say, okay, like I don't love that, but the show can still super deliver. Because the other 3, 2 of them, or I should say, one of them has its own individual little storyline issues, the Stephanie Vaquero of it all. It's just impossible for me to go with an A on a pre-show expectation. I completely agree with you. Not even just a letter grade agreement, a numerical agreement as well. 92 out of 100, an A minus. This show can get into A range if the booking is spot on, if there's a couple surprises. There's a myriad ways that they can get there, but just on the surface of the card and the star power and the stuff I am really looking forward to, which is primarily the mixed tag team match, the women's championship match, because of the quality that I'm expecting. And I'm real curious to see, by the way, how this tag team match works out. The Usos as a tag team raise the rent. Say what you want about Jay as an individual. With Jimmy, they're one of the greatest tag teams of all time. They work that way. And Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed are doing a great job as well. So I have real high expectations for this show. I have no idea how or when I'm going to be able to watch it. It's happening at the same time as the Florida-Miami game. You have major college football to cover as well. You and I will be delivering, or at least I will, but hopefully you will be joining me for a WWE Wrestlepalooza instant analysis podcast Saturday night, Sunday morning after this goes off the air. We're going to figure out a way to give you your dose of performance-enhancing audio that you always need after these shows, and we will have more details about how that is going to transpire, more so when that is going to transpire Saturday night. We'll tell you while the show is going on, hey, this is when you can expect the instant analysis, but it will be in your podcast feed, and we certainly hope that you enjoy it when that time comes. Chris, greatly appreciate you joining for this. We went a little bit longer than expected, 90 minutes plus for a 5-match card. But look, this is when I had you on the show, and I'm glad we dug into this because, frankly, as much as there was to talk about from Raw and SmackDown, there's also a lot we needed to say about how the card was built, the way this was put together, and really what to expect from WWE's debut on ESPN.
Yeah, I don't know if or when I'll be able to watch the show either. Also on what I will be able to watch it, because the ESPN app is not free for everybody who's cable, just some of it. I think a lot of people are going to figure that out on Saturday night. So that'll be an adventure, but it's once again a new era for WWE with a new platform for the pay-per-views, and it'll be really interesting to see how it goes.
And if you skipped over to the end of the show, you're listening to the ultimate preview closer to WWE Wrestlepalooza at the early part of the program. We did discuss exactly how to watch WWE on ESPN, and those of you who may be restricted from doing so, along with other avenues in which you can go ahead and watch Wrestlepalooza on Saturday night. Vintage, thank you for joining the show. It is time to officially wrap up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way out, the Silver King is here to remind you that this show
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Lastly, don't forget you can find us all across social media at Getting Overcast. On YouTube, you get full-length audio episodes and full-length video interviews. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, and all of the good stuff that comes along with it. You can also send in questions and comments for the show. And as mentioned on Twitter, you can vote in our pre- and post-show polls surrounding WWE premium live events across the board at Getting Overcast. As mentioned, thanks once again to Vintage Chris Vanini for joining. This is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.